Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101 Blue Bully Academy. But why did Tang Hao appear beside Tang Liu at this time? If Tang Liu teleported Tang Hao here, he might have entered a week period, and the Shrek people would not appear in Xiandao City now. As for why Tang Hao appeared, it all started from that night. Tang Liu caught up with the Shrek people at the entrance of Xiandao Royal Academy. Although Tang Liu asked Tang Hao to suppress Douluo, the Shrek people were still in a bad mood. Especially the master, after all, it was he who brought everyone to Xiandao Royal Academy. Flender, I'm sorry, it's my fault. The master held Flender's shoulder and sighed. Flender shook his head. It has nothing to do with you, it's just our bad luck. I don't know why, I don't feel like reopening the academy at all now. Maybe it's because I'm too tired these years. His last sentence was undoubtedly a rejection of Daimyo-Bei's previous proposal to reopen Shrek Academy. Since we won't do it again, let's just occupy the existing one. Tang Liu also rushed back at this time, and just heard what Flanders said, so he shouted loudly. Everyone was relieved to see him coming back. Xiao Liu, how did you scare off that poison Douluo? Ningrongrong couldn't help asking when she saw him. Hey, the reason why I was able to scare off poison Douluo is because I have the restrictions left by my master. If I am threatened, I will fight back on my own, so I can scare off poison Douluo. Tang Liu made up without any burden in his heart. So, your master should also be a titled Douluo, otherwise how could he scare off that poison Douluo? Ningrongrong said affirmatively. Yes, my master is also a titled Douluo, but he didn't tell me his title. Tang Liu nodded. Xiao Liu, when did you have a master? The master asked at this time. He was very curious about who took Xiao Liu as an apprentice. Uncle, I have always had a master. Tang Liu looked at the master and smiled mysteriously, deliberately emphasizing the word father. So the master immediately understood, thinking that Taoshin Douluo had been here just now. Xiao Liu, what do you mean by that sentence just now? Occupy the ready-made. Flender looked at Tang Liu at this time and said. Tang Liu smiled and looked at him with deep meaning in his eyes. Dean, didn't I say it when we were in there? I know there's a high-level Soul Master Academy called Lanba Academy in Xiandao City. It's not bad. Why don't we go there and try it? Hearing this, Flender suddenly realized. Yes, isn't there still there? How could I have forgotten it? But how did Tang Liu know it? Oh, alright, don't wait here, let's go now. Believe me, Blue Tyrant Academy is the most suitable place for us. Moreover, we can also participate in the All-Continental High-Level Spirit Master Elite Competition in 2 years on behalf of Blue Tyrant Academy and give the Xiandao royal family a slap in the face. Let's go, I'll lead the way. Tang Liu's words undoubtedly made everyone in Shrek's eyes glow with fire. Everyone present was unruly, and Tang Liu's words about giving the Xiandao royal family a slap in the face were also very much to everyone's taste. Xiao Liu is right, we can prove with our strength that it was a mistake for the Xiandao royal family to miss as Shrek. Tang San was the first to agree, followed by the rest of the 7 devils. Even the teachers nodded slightly, thinking that Tang Liu was right. So, everyone walked out of Xiandao Academy under Tang Liu's leadership. However, after walking a short distance, Tang Liu stopped, then turned around and looked at everyone, with an embarrassed look on his face. Well, where's the gate of Xiandao City? Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they all burst into laughter. So the unhappiness in their hearts dissipated a lot. Tang Liu looked at the people who laughed at him angrily, but a smile flashed in the depths of his eyes. Xiandao City, Lanba Academy. Are you all here to sign up and apply for the academy teacher? Lanba Academy is recruiting teachers due to expansion, so Flanders and others just found a reason to move in. At this moment, the person in charge of reception is interviewing them. No, we are the ones who signed up, and these children are our disciples. If we can successfully apply for the job here, our disciples also hope to study here, Flanders said. Students need to undergo an assessment before they can enter the academy. Let's put it this way. All Soul Masters, please accept our test first. If you can become a teacher at the academy, I think your disciples can also enter the academy to attend classes. After all, the enrollment period for new students has passed, and your disciples are a little younger. After the reception teacher finished speaking, He was stunned by the cultivation of Flanders and other teachers of Shrek Academy. Of course, the master did not show his martial spirit due to his own limitations. But compared with teaching students, none of the teachers present could compare to him. So, the reception teacher, who did not dare to make a decision on his own, took everyone to meet the Dean of Blue Tyrant Academy, the last corner of the Golden Triangle, the killing horn Liu Erlong. Then, the teachers and students of Shrek saw a bloody and tragic drama. After explaining the purpose of the visit, Liu Erlong generously gave Blue Tyrant Academy to Flanders, and then took everyone to have lunch. After that, he took everyone to visit the various facilities of Blue Tyrant Academy, and after arranging accommodation, the dinner began. During this time, Liu Erlong no longer showed the same demeanor and mood as when she met the master in the morning. She was always calm and did not show any abnormality. After the dinner, the master took Tang San out for a walk and told Tang San the story of him and Liu Erlong. It was at this time that Tang Liu quietly came to Liu Erlong and said mysteriously, "And, do you want your uncle to put aside his prejudice and be with you openly?" Liu Erlong was slightly stunned when she heard this, then winked at him and took him out of the restaurant quickly. "Hey, Liu is going to come up with some tricks again." Daimyo Bei looked at Liu Erlong and Tang Liu who were leaving, so he nudged Oscar beside him with his elbow and whispered in his ear with a bad tone. "Hey, I don't know what's wrong with Liu's brain. He has some unexpected tricks all day long. But those ideas still work." Oscar laughed obscenely. For example, he relied on Tang Liu's guidance to narrow the distance between himself and Ning Rongrong. Daimyo Bei nodded in agreement. After all, his relationship with Zhu Huqing was rapidly getting closer thanks to Tang Liu's ideas. Chapter 102 And, you want to do this? You said, you are Xia Gang's nephew. Outside the restaurant, Liu Erlong took Tang Liu for a walk in the night. Yes, but I recognize the master as my uncle. But since I have already recognized you, and you are my uncle's lover, you don't mind if I call you aunt? Tang Liu nodded and smiled. Why would I object? Xia Gang has no children in his life. I am so happy to see that he has a nephew like you. I have also recognized you as my nephew. If you suffer any grievances in the future, just tell your aunt and she will help you vent your anger, Liu Erlong said generously. Okay, then I will rely on you more in the future. Tang Liu smiled, and then said what Liu Erlong had been thinking about, and, the gap between you and uncle now is the blood relationship between you. It is this point that makes it difficult for uncle to accept. I know that too, but I, a woman, don't care, so why should he, a grown man, care? As long as two people truly love each other, who cares about the secular perspective? When Liu Erlong said this, she couldn't help but become a little resentful. Hey, and, this is because you failed to understand uncle's feelings. Tang Liu shook his head and said like a little adult, you said it, he is a man. Since you don't care, will he care? In fact, what uncle really cares about is how the world looks at you. When he is with you, he doesn't care how others look at him or scold him, but he absolutely can't stand those people treating you in the same way. This is also the reason why he doesn't want to be with you. Put yourself in his shoes. If you were your uncle, would you do the same? Hearing this, Liu Erlong was stunned for a moment, and then her mood suddenly became clear. Then she looked at Tang Liu and said in surprise, good nephew, it turns out that Xia Gang has not been with me because of this. I'll go and talk to him now. Tang Liu hurriedly grabbed Liu Erlong who was about to run to find the master, and said helplessly, and, don't worry, it's not too late to listen to me before going. Although you have understood uncle's feelings now, you still can't help him get out of his heart. I tell you, do this. Tang Liu lowered his voice and spoke to Liu Erlong beside him. Liu Erlong's expression showed surprise, then joy, and finally hesitation. She looked at Tang Liu and said, is this really possible? Although her expression and tone were a little hesitant, her eyes were clearly full of joy. Tang Liu patted his chest and said, and, don't worry, this method is absolutely possible. However, in this process, you must not be soft-hearted, and you must not reveal any flaws. Don't worry, for my happiness, I will definitely succeed. Liu Erlong cheered herself up, her expression full of determination. I also believe that you will succeed, and let's go find uncle now and start the first step of the plan. Okay. His head was dizzy, as if he had just been hit hard by a rushing carriage. His eyes kept closing and opening, but everything he saw was doubled. Blurred, unreal. After a while, he woke up and found that it was pitch black all around. But in this darkness, There were two extremely strange green lights, flashing with a gloomy light. And that light that made people shiver just happened to shine on him. In my memory, I seemed to go out with the teacher, and then listen to the teacher telling the story of him and Aunt Erlong. I seemed to enlighten him, and then I saw Aunt Erlong followed, with Xiao Liu by her side. In order not to disturb the reunion of Aunt Erlong and the teacher, Xiao Liu and I left, but it seemed that we met someone. That person was Poison Douluo. Tang San remembered everything, so he felt even colder. He looked at the two green lights, but his heart was calm. While secretly concentrating the Zuanshan Guang soul power in his body, he silently observed the surroundings, trying to find the figure of Tang Liu. Because Tang Liu was caught like him. Awake, a hoarse voice came from the side. As his eyes adapted to the darkness, Tang San finally saw the figure of Poison Douluo Douluo clearly. It turned out that the two green lights were his eyes. At the same time, he also saw Tang Liu. Tang Liu was lying next to Douluo, without any movement, and it seemed that he was still in a coma. Although he saw Tang Liu, Tang San's expression did not change at all. He turned over and sat up, looking at Douluo coldly, but did not speak. Although he did not understand why Douluo wanted to capture him and Xiao Liu, he thought that it was because Xiao Liu scared away the Poison Douluo during the day, and now the Poison Douluo came to take revenge. However, didn't Xiao Liu have the restrictions set by his master? Why didn't it work this time? Could it be that the strength of this Poison Douluo was so terrifying that he actually came up with a way to deal with it in just one afternoon? In just a few thoughts, Tang San's fear of Douluo became even deeper. Are you really only 13 years old? Why do you have the mentality of a veteran? Douluo looked at the expressionless Tang San and said lightly. Tang San did not answer him, but just looked at him coldly. Douluo smiled faintly and said, "Boy, your name is Tang San." "Yes," Tang San said, and began to think about whether there is any way to take Xiao Liu away safely. Even if it is not possible, Xiao Liu must be able to leave safely. It is you who broke my granddaughter's third soul skill and cured her with poison. How did you dissolve her snake venom? But strong wine may not be enough, Douluo said with a green light in his eyes. Who is your granddaughter? Do I know her? Tang San said coldly. Humph, my granddaughter is Du Guyan. Boy, do you remember now? Douluo snorted coldly. Hearing this, Tang San remembered. It turned out to be the controlled type soul master with the spirit of the green phosphorus snake in the royal fighting team who defeated the Soto City Great Fighting Soul Arena, Du Guyan. At that time, he relied on a bottle of realgar wine and fire to break Du Guyan's snake venom. So, Tang San immediately followed up his words calmly, so it's the Du Guyan who used the garbage poison. You old monster is known as the Poison Douluo. Don't you even know the property of realgar to counter snake venom? High-proof alcohol can fully bring out the properties of realgar, plus the burning of flames. Although your granddaughter's third spirit skill is vicious, it is not impossible to resolve it. Chapter 103 Yin Yang Eyes of Ice and Fire. Douluo chattered with a strange laugh. How many years have passed? I'll count how many years it has been since anyone dared to talk to me like this. Boy, are you not afraid of death? How dare you question my poison? Do you know that even other titled Douluo will turn pale when talking about my poison? Tang San snorted disdainfully and sneered. Your poison? It's just garbage. What did you say? Douluo's eyes glowed green, and he just raised his hand slightly, and Tang San's body was pushed out by an irresistible force, hitting the wall behind him heavily. The severe pain almost made him faint again. Boy, if you dare to talk to me again, even if your poison interests me, I will kill you immediately. My poison is garbage? I can make all living things within a kilometer devastated and no grass grow in an instant, and I can even let you die of poisoning without even doing anything. In this world, there has never been anyone stronger than me among poison attribute spirit masters. How dare you question my poison? Douluo said coldly. Tang San struggled to get up from the ground, enduring the severe pain in his body, and said, Do I need to argue with you? What's the point of that for me? Your poison is very powerful, but it's still rubbish. Poison skills are used to poison the enemy, but you don't even know that you are poisoned. Isn't your poison rubbish? Douluo was stunned for a moment, and waved his right hand casually, and a circle of green flames suddenly ignited around the cave. It was at this time that Tang San saw clearly the environment he was in, and then saw the unconscious figure of Tang Liu beside Douluo. What a joke, my poison will poison myself? I am 78 years old this year, and I have always been the only one who poison others, and I have never been poisoned by others. Douluo looked at Tang San coldly, but did not attack Tang San again. Then naturally, Tang San pointed out the symptoms of Douluo, but Douluo wanted to kill him. When he attacked Tang San, he found Tang San's external soul bone 8 spider lance. However, since the 8 spider lances had been completely integrated with Tang San, although Douluo had this greedy intention in his heart, he did not have the idea of killing people to take their bones. Then, after Tang San said that the green phosphorus snake venom would also take Dugu Yan's life, Douluo finally softened. Why do you want me to believe that you can remove the poison from my body? Tang San sat cross-legged on the ground and replied, do I need to prove it to you? Anyway, you are going to kill me. People like you are only a disaster in the world. If I save you, I am just helping the evil. Douluo cannot care about his own life and death, but he cannot not care about the future of his precious granddaughter. So, with an uncertain look, he finally said, okay, I won't bother with you. If you can really remove the poison from my granddaughter and me, then, not only can I not kill you, but I can also promise to help you do 3 things that do not violate my bottom line. Tang San said lightly, you don't kill me? Just like you said just now, why should I believe you? You want to kill me, but it's just a piece of cake. People like you, it's not uncommon to repay kindness with enmity. Douluo didn't expect him to be so difficult, so he couldn't help but said angrily, why don't you ask about my reputation? Although I never think I am a good person, I value trust. No one has ever dared to despise my integrity like this. Tang San closed his eyes and said, this is just your own empty talk. Unless you swear a poisonous oath, otherwise, I won't believe you. Douluo's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and he was about to take action. But thinking of his granddaughter, he still endured it. Okay, I'll swear as long as you can prove that you can remove my poison, with a chance of survival. Tang San secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up again, retracted the 8 spider lances, and said, how do you want me to prove it? Prove that you are better at using poison than me, and I will believe you, Douluo said, and then led Tang San to walk outside. By the way, wake him up too, I want him to go to your herb garden with me. Tang San finally mentioned Tang Liu at this time. Douluo looked at Tang Liu on the ground, and for some reason, he actually had a deep fear in his heart. He looked at Tang San again and said lightly, no. Before you pass my test, he must stay with me, so that you don't play any tricks. Then how can I be sure that you won't harm him? Tang San said coldly. Simple. Douluo, swear on my life. Okay, Douluo immediately made a simple but very binding oath, which stunned Tang San. Without further hesitation, Tang San followed Douluo to his herb garden, and then saw a lake of fiery red and ice blue. This is the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Thinking of what Tang Liu had said to him not long ago, Tang San couldn't help but be more moved. It turns out that the future is real, and I actually encountered the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. See, all my medicines are planted here. There are all kinds of poisons and tonics. You can use them, but if you dare to destroy this place, I will make you live a life worse than death. I will give you some time. The day after tomorrow morning, if you can't pass my test, then it will be your doom. After saying that, Douluo left. He was not afraid that Tang San would run away, because Tang Liu was still with him. Finally, after telling Tang San not to touch the spring water, Douluo completely left the range of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. After Tang San left, he began to identify the medicinal materials in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Finally, he ate the 8-angled black ice grass and the fiery apricot, jumped into the fiery yang spring and the cold ice spring, and began to practice ice and fire. On the other side, Douluo just returned to his cave. When he walked into the cave, he saw a smiling face. Who else could it be but Tang Liu? Douluo looked at Tang Liu's face and inexplicably felt very timid, even though Tang Liu's face was very good-looking. Are you awake? Douluo said vigilantly. Tang Liu didn't care about his performance at all, and didn't make any moves. He just smiled and said, old monster, you acted well, but you still have a few more scenes to act. Act? What scenes? Douluo showed a confused look on his face, and suddenly felt an indescribable sense of disobedience in his heart. Chapter 104. So Tang Liu set his sights on the dragon bone. Tang Liu said nothing, but smiled and snapped his fingers. The next moment, Douluo felt a memory flooding into his mind. In an instant, the strange feeling of disharmony in his heart disappeared without a trace, and at the same time, he also understood why he was afraid of Tang Liu. Well, I didn't lie to you, did I? My brother can really help you get rid of the poison in your body, Tang Liu smiled. Douluo was stunned there for a while, adapting to the sudden emergence of memories, and then said, "Can you still control my memory?" "Of course, I said I can control everything about you," Tang Liu said very naturally, as if he had done something insignificant. "In order to make you act more realistically, I had to seal some of your memories and let you act in your true colors. How about it? Is the murderous intention you have towards my brother very real?" Tang Liu smiled very frivolously. Douluo didn't want to laugh at all. Instead, he was more afraid of Tang Liu, and even had some fear. "After these things are over, you must remove the things you left on me. Don't worry, I don't mean to hurt you. After all, you will get closer and closer to us." Tang Liu also stopped laughing and looked at Douluo meaningfully. "So, you didn't see me wake up, and you didn't remember anything just now." As soon as the voice fell, Tang Liu fell to the ground again, and Douluo was stunned for a second, and then those memories were sealed again. Now, he only remembered that he needed to face the pain that would come soon, and hope that Tang San, the little monster, could really find a way to remove the poison from his body, and send Tang Liu, who made him feel extremely afraid for some reason, away as soon as possible. When Tang San rushed out of the spring water of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, he saw a golden dragon hovering in the sky not far away, and a huge green snake head. So he immediately used the 8 spider lances to head towards that place. Using the purple demon eye, he saw the 3 masters fighting the giant green snake, and soon, the golden dragon summoned by the 3 masters disappeared. Then, he felt Douluo's killing intention towards the 3 masters. So, Tang San immediately shouted, "Douluo, you dare!" Douluo, who heard Tang San's shout, didn't know why. The murderous intent in his heart disappeared immediately like a deflated ball. Douluo stood there in a daze, not understanding why, so he couldn't say a word for a while. Fortunately, Tang San didn't intend to let him speak. "Senior Douluo, didn't you say you would do 3 things for me? The first thing is that no matter what time in the future, you can't hurt anyone related to our Shrek Academy." Douluo agreed almost subconsciously, and for a while he was a little confused. Why should I agree? But the inexplicable sense of guilt and disharmony in his heart made him refuse to think deeply. Tang San was also stunned for a moment, not expecting Douluo to be so straightforward, but he did not doubt him, and then turned to negotiate with the 3 masters. Naturally, Tang Liu was mentioned, so Tang San and the 3 masters could not help but look at Douluo, who had been silent for a long time. Douluo understood what they wanted to say, so he said, "The other kid named Tang Liu can't leave now. He and Tang San will stay with me for 2 years. During this period, I will personally guide them to practice. If you are worried, I can swear to guarantee that I will not hurt these 2 kids." Tang San, "Master, Liu Erlong, I smell a strong desire to survive. Flanders, is there something wrong with the style of this poison Douluo today?" In the end, the conversation ended like this. Although the 3 masters expressed their desire to see if Tang Liu was okay, Douluo evaded them with various reasons. Anyway, the oath has been made, what else can you do? Finally, the 3 masters left the sunset forest with a strange joy. Tang San and Douluo returned to the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire with a settled atmosphere. After that, Douluo naturally began to test Tang San with 3 tests, and it was another battle of wits and courage. In the cave, Tang Liu opened his eyes with some boredom. The blue light in his eyes gradually disappeared, and the blue-black soul ring hovering beside him also disappeared. Every scene that happened before was captured by him using the vision acquisition effect of the Shaolin mark. Everything was basically the same as the original, and everything was still going according to his idea. Because of the deviation caused by helping Shrek out of trouble at the Shyandao Royal Academy, it was basically back on track. So what should I do next? Tang Liu kept searching in his memory. It seemed that there were 2 dragons buried under the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Not long after, Douluo returned to the cave. He wanted to start practicing, but he saw Tang Liu sitting on the ground and looking at him with a smile. So Douluo felt that he was not feeling well. Tang Liu moved his mind and released Douluo's sealed memories. Anyway, the goal has been achieved now, so there is no need to seal those memories. After adapting for a few seconds, Douluo turned his eyes to Tang Liu. He opened his mouth to say something, but the previous scene suddenly appeared in his mind, and a sense of shame suddenly came over him. making Douluo want to slap himself twice. Why is he so spineless all of a sudden? Tang Liu saw what he was thinking at a glance, but he didn't bring it up, giving this old poisoner some face. After all, he has threatened others for so long, so he should let him taste some sweetness, right? Wait until my brother removes the poison from your body, and I will give you a chance to upgrade to level 99. Tang Liu said so, and he didn't intend to explain. So Douluo started practicing with expectation but more suspicion. After seeing Douluo enter meditation, Tang Liu quietly left the cave, and after finding the direction, he slowly walked towards the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Gradually, two opposite energies of heat and cold gradually appeared in the air. When Tang Liu broke into this world, these two energies rushed into Tang Liu's body. This is why all living things cannot stay in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire for too long. Chapter 105, The Boundless Ocean. The collision of two completely opposite energies in the body is too deadly. But a blue-black light emerged from Tang Liu's body, so the two agitated energies that were rushing towards him immediately calmed down, and even became a little well-behaved. Tang Liu, his soul power level is too high, so high that it doesn't look like soul power at all. Or rather, the level of Heolan Magic's martial soul is too high. That's why Xiao Funi chose to follow him, and said that within 1,000 years, he could enter the 200,000-year level. That's why he said that he could give Douluo a chance to reach level 99. That's why these two energies seem so well-behaved now. His soul power, even if it's only a small strand, is a great tonic for the soul masters of this world. Really, Tang, great tonic. 6. As the two energies in the air became stronger and stronger, the valley where the yin-yang eye of ice and fire was located also appeared in front of Tang Liu. Tang Liu glanced at the rather deep cliff, added a void spirit control to himself, and then jumped down without hesitation. So, Tang San, who happened to be identifying herbs at this place, suddenly saw an unknown object flashing past his eyes, and then disappeared into the ground. Tang San, what passed by? A big black rat? Tang San looked at the place where the object or creature disappeared with some hesitation, wondering whether to dig up the ground to have a look. Then the next moment, a head popped out from there. Tang San, shock. Hey, brother, a hand popped out next to Tang Liu's head, and then greeted Tang San with a smile. Tang San, why are you here? To be honest, he didn't know what to say at this time. Tang Liu grew out from the ground, and he didn't see him exert any strength, and the whole person left the ground. After releasing the spirit of the void, Tang Liu said to Tang San, that poisonous Douluo asked me to come here to find you. Douluo, who was practicing, felt that there was suddenly a pot on his head. Tang San wanted to continue to say something, and then another thing fell from his head. Pa fell at the feet of the two people, and bounced twice on the ground. Tang San looked down and found that it was the jade fox raised by his younger brother. Tang San, Tang Liu. Tang Liu hurried over to pick up Xiao Funi. Sorry, I forgot that the void spirit control is only effective for one person. It is estimated that when he jumped down, Xiao Funi passed through him and fell out. Then he fell rapidly in confusion, and when he finally remembered to fly, he fell to the ground. Xiao Funi shook off the dirt on his body and looked at Tang Liu with some resentment. But then, it sensitively smelled a strong medicinal fragrance here. Looking at the large area of natural materials and treasures, Xiao Funi gradually pulled out a human smile. The smile gradually became abnormal. JPG, Douluo, who was practicing, suddenly felt a chill on his back, and then woke up from his practice, reaching out and subconsciously touching his pocket. Why do I feel like I'm going bankrupt? Back to the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Xiao Liu, it seems that the illusions you saw are all real. We are now inside the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Tang San soon immersed himself in the joy of discovering the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire again, and pulled Tang Liu around to identify the medicinal herbs. Tang Liu followed him, listened to him patiently, and then held Xiao Funi tightly in his arms to prevent it from running away to harm these natural treasures. So Xiao Funi looked pitifully at the natural treasures passing by one after another. Wanting to eat but not being able to eat for a long time, Tang San's interest finally passed, and then suddenly remembered something, and hurriedly said to Tang Liu, by the way, Xiao Liu, the energy of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire is too violent. Wait for me, I will give you a medicinal herb that can make you not afraid of the conflicting ice and fire auras here. Tang Liu knew that it was his blood, so he stopped him and said, no, the aura here has no effect on me. Really, Tang San was a little suspicious, so he felt Tang Liu's pulse, and only felt relieved after confirming that there was nothing unusual. "Brother, you just introduced a hope dew. I want to eat it. How should I take it?" Tang Liu ran towards the hope dew and said. Tang San thought about it and found that the hope dew was indeed suitable for Tang Liu, not to mention that he had also cultivated the purple demon eye like himself. So he followed and came to Tang Liu, who was squatting in front of the hope dew, and said, "It's very simple. You just drink the dew on it." Then, he also squatted down and picked a hope dew for Tang Liu and taught him how to take it. "But, I thought about it, the Cheoluzuan Ko over there is more suitable for you. The medicinal properties are mild, strengthening the body and strengthening the body. It should be able to solve the hidden dangers left in your body when you were a child, and conservatively estimated that it can increase your soul power by about 3 to 5 levels, Tang San said. Tang Liu shook his head, took the Wangchuan Kiashudu he handed over, and said, "No hurry, these natural treasures are all ours anyway. Besides, I feel that my body is much better than when I was a child." After saying that, Tang Liu raised his head and drank the dew on the leaves of the Wangchuan Kiashudu. When all the dew flowed into his stomach, the Wangchuan Kiashudu in his hand turned into ashes and slowly scattered, leaving only a few small seeds. Tang San took the seeds back and asked Tang Liu to start practicing immediately, and then he planted the seeds himself. Tang Liu, who was practicing, felt a cool air rising from his stomach, and then quickly gathered towards his head, and finally all acted on his eyes. When the cool air acted on his eyes, Tang Liu instantly felt that his brain was blank, and all his senses of the outside world disappeared for a while. When Tang Liu regained his senses again, he found that he had come to the sea of spirituality. After calming down, Tang Liu found that his sea of spirituality had now really become an ocean-like existence. The sea is boundless. Tut, can a fairy product easily make the spirit reach the boundless sea realm? Tang Liu looked at the magnificent sea of spirit and couldn't help sighing twice. Then, consciousness returned. The moment he opened his eyes, Tang Liu activated the purple extreme demon pupil, and then found that his purple extreme demon pupil realm was still in the subtle realm, and he did not directly enter the mustard seed realm like Tang San in the original work. It should be because most of the medicinal power of the longing for autumn water dew acted on his sea of spirit. However, Tang Liu's dependence on the purple extreme demon pupil was not high. So the improvement of his spirit to the boundless sea realm had already brought him a great surprise. The author thinks that the spiritual power classification of the Peerless Tang sect seems to be more impressive. The sea is boundless, tangible but not material, and tangible and material. Chapter 106, Searching for Dragon Bones. After dispersing the purple demon eye, Tang Liu stood up and looked around for Tang San, and then found that Tang San was chasing a ball of green fluff in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. "Shut up, you can't eat that kilo tulip. Earth dragon golden pumpkin is not okay either. Let go of the Kirin Tongshan chrysanthemum, it doesn't suit you. You will explode if you eat the 8-petal fairy orchid. Be careful, that coxcomb phoenix sunflower is hot. Hey, eat less dragon ganoderma leaf, there aren't many anyway. There are more snow silkworms over there. You should eat that, although it's a medicinal herb, it has meat. Very suitable for you, right? Don't touch my Yuxiang Kilo immortal product." Tang Liu, seeing Tang San protecting the medicinal herbs like a calf and on the verge of exploding, Tang Liu couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. So he released his third martial spirit expressionlessly, and then used his second spirit skill. With a flash of blue light, little Funi appeared in his hand, held by the scruff of the neck. Suddenly, Zio Funi was still a little confused when he was suspended in the air. Then he turned his fox head and looked at Tang Liu. Tang Liu smiled as he looked at the snow silkworm residue still stuck on the fur of its mouth. Zio Funi's whole fox trembled. Tang Liu held it in his arms very gently, and then walked towards the blazing yang spring and the cold ice spring. "Zio Funi, the medicinal materials here are all private property. It would be a pity if you waste them. Now, if you want to eat something, you can just say it directly, but such casual waste is absolutely not allowed. As a well-educated fox, how can you do such a thing that damages the reputation of the fox?" Zio Funi looked at the spring water getting closer and closer, and the whole fox was not feeling well. He wanted to struggle to leave frantically. But Tang Liu didn't give it a chance. The Haowl and Mark had already prepared to make it unable to move. "Brother, I'll go down and take a look." Tang Liu turned around and greeted Tang San. "Wait a minute, that spring water," Tang San or Kang's hand. "It's okay, "This water can't hurt me," Tang Liu responded, and then the 4 spirit rings around him began to rotate around his body, protecting him in the middle like 4 shields. Then, he jumped into the spring water holding little Funi. Tang San ran over to see worriedly, and then found that the spring water around him couldn't touch Tang Liu at all, as if it was rejected. Then, Tang San watched Tang Liu slowly sink in the water, and finally gradually turned into a blue bright spot on the red and blue spring water. Tang San was relieved. After sitting by the pool for a while, and confirming that Tang Liu had no intention of coming up, Tang San continued to identify the medicinal materials. The surroundings were red and blue, and silent at the same time. If there was any sound, it was only the sound of water being slightly stirred. Tang Liu held little Funi and looked at the red and blue world around him. He felt that in this silence, there was an indescribable sense of amazement. After going down to the bottom of the pool, Tang Liu immediately sat cross-legged, and then told little Funi not to leave the protective circle formed by his 4 spirit rings. Having made little Funi stand still for a while earlier, he had consumed a lot of his soul power. So now he had to recover his soul power before he could better find the 2 dragon bones, 1 ice and 1 fire, buried at the bottom of the pond. And he didn't have to worry about the oxygen problem. After all, there were a lot of hyaline marks placed outside, and he could just absorb the oxygen when it was about to run out. Now in the protective space formed by Hyalin's spell, the oxygen he had should be able to support him in little Funi for half an hour. So as long as he paid attention to replenishing oxygen every half an hour, he could stay down there forever. After spending a quarter of an hour to recover his soul power, Tang Liu first replenished his oxygen. Although his soul power was consumed again, it was still within the acceptable range. Then, he took little Funi around underwater. "System, help me determine the location of the 2 dragon bones." While walking, Tang Liu asked the system for help in his mind. Scanning the surrounding environment, "Please wait a moment." After an electronic prompt sounded, a 3-dimensional map of the surroundings immediately appeared in front of Tang Liu's eyes. There was a blue dot on it, that was him. Then there were 2 red dots far from the blue dot, which were the 2 dragon bones he wanted to find. Planning the route, the system's voice sounded again, and then a green line was emitted from the blue dot in the 3-dimensional map in front of him, extending outward, and then connected to the 2 red dots. "Planning is complete, please follow the instructions." As the system's voice fell, the 3-dimensional map in front of him quickly shrank, and finally settled in the upper left corner of his vision. Then, a green, flashing arrow appeared on the ground under his feet. Tang Liu looked forward and found that this arrow appeared every 2 meters or so. If he needed to turn, the arrow would appear at the same level as his line of sight to prevent him from missing it. "Tang Liu, tisk, why do I feel like playing a dungeon in an online game?" Shaking his head, he picked up little Funi and walked down along the direction of the arrow. After turning 7 or 8 times, Tang Liu encountered a green arrow pointing straight down, so he took a look at little Funi, and then decisively teleported it to Tang San. Of course, he did not forget to remind it not to waste those natural treasures. After teleporting Xiao Funi away, Tang Liu quickly switched his martial soul and added the void spirit control to himself at the moment when the surrounding spring water enveloped him. Then, he quickly sank down where the arrow pointed. There was a dark mud in his sight, but at least the arrow pointing the direction was still downward. Tang Liu didn't know how long he had been falling, but it was estimated to be at least 10 minutes. His descent was very fast, but it seemed that he still couldn't reach the end. As a soul sect cultivator, he had already been able to use the void spirit control for 2 minutes. And he had added it to himself no less than 5 times. Just when Tang Liu was hesitating whether to replenish his oxygen first, his sight finally broke away from the mud and was filled with red and blue. Tang Liu fell in the air for a while, and then sank into the ground again. After another 2 seconds, Tang Liu slowly emerged from the ground, looking at the red and blue around him. This is a large underground space. The thin air was filled with ice and fire elements that were even more intense than the yin-yang eyes. They were extremely violent, yet distinct and harmonious. This space was filled with these ice and fire elements. Everything he could see was red and blue. Apart from that, he could not see any other objects. The moment he appeared in this space, it seemed as if some kind of balance between the ice and fire elements was broken, and they suddenly surged towards him like a terrifying wave in the sea. Chapter 107 Finding the Dragon Bones. Tang Liu's martial soul switched to the Hyaolin spell, and then an extremely strong blue-black light shone on his body, covering him behind the dazzling light. For a moment, it seemed as if an extremely blazing blue sun appeared in this vast space. So the rich ice and fire elements immediately collided with the light of the blue sun, and then they were silenced. Tang Liu, as the person involved, his feeling is undoubtedly the most accurate. In his perception, the ice and fire elements rushed over fiercely, and then collided with the light emanating from his body in an instant. At that moment, Tang Liu subconsciously thought that there would be an extremely violent explosion. After all, those ice and fire elements felt so fierce. But please pay attention. The real situation is that the fierce ice and fire elements disappeared immediately when they touched the blue-black light. It was as if something really hit the blue star with the highest temperature, and it was vaporized by the extremely high temperature in an instant. Although it was an analogy, Tang Liu felt that it was more like a pencil mark that hit the eraser, twisted itself on the eraser, and then erased itself. Tang Liu, after the aggressive ice and fire elements were completely defeated in the first wave of attacks, the light radiating from Tang Liu's body immediately intensified, and then quickly encompassed the entire space. About 5 seconds later, this strong light began to recover rapidly, and disappeared completely in a breath, leaving only a thin layer covering Tang Liu's body, silently protecting him in the middle. Then Tang Liu found that the ice and fire elements that were originally filled with the entire space and were so rich that they were almost liquefied disappeared without a trace. Tang Liu, should he burp now? He then confirmed that the soul power in his body had not increased at all. Then he looked at his data card again, which was not updated by the system. In other words, his Aeolin magic swallowed up all these ice and fire elements? You are a martial soul, what do you need these energies for, to fill your stomach? Tang Liu started to complain in his heart with an expressionless face, and then planned to continue looking for dragon bones. Anyway, the elemental energy here has been swallowed by his martial soul, and there is basically no threat. At most, he just needs to replenish oxygen on time to prevent suffocation, so he is very relieved to walk around now. The green arrow disappeared the moment he fell into this space. Without guidance, Tang Liu asked the system to open the three-dimensional map that had always been in the upper left corner of his vision, and then he found that the blue light dot representing himself was now surrounded by 2 red dots representing dragon bones. Tang Liu, so he subconsciously used the purple extreme demon pupil, and looked around with the night vision ability of the purple extreme demon pupil. But just as he used the purple extreme demon pupil, before he had time to turn his head, he saw a huge white bone skull standing in front of him. Almost close at hand. Tang Liu, scared, thank you, this skull was very huge. Tang Liu was really just a small one in front of it. If this dragon was still alive, it would probably look at Tang Liu like Tang Liu looking at an ant. However, now more than half of this huge skull was buried in the ground, with only the part above the nose and 2 large dragon horns leaning backwards exposed. I don't know why, but looking at it this way, I always feel that this dragon bone has a very subtle, cowardly feeling. It's like a cat or dog that has half of its head shrunk under the sofa, only daring to show its eyes and looking at you with grievance. Inexplicably cute. Then Tang Liu turned around again and found that there was also a huge skull behind him, with the same posture as the previous one, cowardly and aggrieved. Then Tang Liu looked far away and found that this space was an extremely vast cave hall. Behind the 2 dragon head bones, a huge arched spine would occasionally emerge, rising and falling, as if the earth was a cloud, and the 2 of them were shuttling in the cloud. Tang Liu had been opening the purple demon eye, and began to walk around the dragon bones in this cave hall. He did not dare to reach out and touch the 2 dragon bones, fearing that they would turn into ashes if he touched them. After a circle, Tang Liu returned to the center of the 2 dragon head skeletons again, and at the same time, the layout of the 2 dragon bones in his mind gradually became complete. In order to confirm it, Tang Liu planned to use the Aeolin mark to take a look. So he sat cross-legged on the ground directly, and his fingertips touched the ground lightly, and at the same time, the first soul ring of the Aeolin spell released also flashed. After closing his eyes, the feeling of rapidly rising consciousness appeared again, and then another blue star appeared in the night. Tang Liu clearly chose the star closest to him, and then his consciousness fell rapidly, and then the surroundings became bright. The vision detection of the Aeolin mark was not affected by darkness, so when he looked down from above, he could easily see all the conditions within a radius of 100 meters. With the improvement of cultivation, the visual field that can be viewed has also increased from 50 meters to 100 meters. But even so, he still couldn't see the whole picture of the cave hall, and all the dragon bones, which shows the vastness of the cave hall and the hugeness of the 2 dragon bones. Although Tang Liu had confirmed this when he was walking around the dragon bones before, he still felt an indescribable shock when he looked at it from above. And because there was no interference from the darkness, Tang Liu found that the 2 dragon bones were one red and one blue. Is this the strongest race in ancient times? They are really so big, words are exhausted. JPG. Although he couldn't see the whole picture, it didn't prevent Tang Liu from comparing the picture in his mind with the image in front of him, and then asking the system for help. After all, the system has scanned all the surrounding landforms and formed a 3-dimensional map. Now all Tang Liu has to do is to enlarge the 3-dimensional map and compare the patterns. After enlarging the 3-dimensional map, Tang Liu finally confirmed that the pattern formed by the 2 dragon bones is indeed very similar to the Tai Chi diagram. The location of the 2 dragon heads is the middle of the curve that divides the circle in the middle of the Tai Chi diagram. Then the body bones of the 2 dragon bones bend in 2 different directions, and finally surround the dragon heads of the 2 dragon bones in the middle to form a circle. At the same time, the 2 dragon bones also have a dragon wing in the circle, one red and one blue, with the tips facing each other, located on both sides of the 2 dragon heads. Their other pair of dragon wings are outside the circle, and also have a slightly rounded arc, just like 2 blade wheels growing outside the Tai Chi diagram. Chapter 108 2 Dragon Spirits. From Tang Liu's perspective, the 2 dragon bones looked like exquisite reliefs on the ground, very beautiful. Tang Liu shook his head and sighed again that he was at a loss for words. As expected, when you need to learn, you will regret not having enough knowledge. When you are shocked, you can only say wow. Tang Liu sighed and was about to stop using his vision, preparing to take a closer look at the 2 dragon bones to see if there were any usable soul bones or something. But at this moment, in his vision, flames suddenly appeared in the dark eye sockets of the 2 dragon bones. Red and blue flames. Not long after, the 2 red and 2 blue flames slowly broke away from the dragon bone eye sockets, rose into the air, and then turned into 2 3-meter-long dragons, one red and one blue. Oh, it turned out that the dragon spirit came out. Seeing this, Tang Liu didn't plan to leave his vision, and wanted to see what the 2 dragon spirits were going to do. These 2 dragons are very different from the dragons in the Chinese mythology of the previous life. Although their bodies are also very long, their dragon heads are more like dinosaurs. Although they also have 2 dragon horns on their heads, their dragon horns are also 2 straight ones without forks. At the same time, not far behind their heads, there is a pair of wings, which are still flapping. Although they are dragon spirits, they seem to rely on wings to fly. Then, their pair of hind legs are much thicker than their front legs, and there are only 4 claws on their 4 legs. Well, they are not as handsome as my great Chinese dragon. Bad review. After the 2 dragon spirits came out, they first looked at each other, and then they all came close to Tang Liu, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, and looked at him curiously. After flying around Tang Liu and looking at Tang Liu almost all the time, the 2 dragons looked at each other again, and then the red dragon began to sniff Tang Liu. Sniffing and sniffing, the red dragon's eyes became brighter and brighter, and at the same time, the dragon's mouth opened wider and wider, and then it bit Tang Liu's head. Tang Liu, shit. Tang Liu's consciousness returned to his body instantly after being out of sight, and then he opened his eyes. Just when he was about to start teleporting away from the huge and very close dragon's mouth in front of him, a blue light flashed quickly in front of his eyes. With a pop, Tang Liu felt that he heard a howl, and then he seemed to vaguely see a little red tear in the red dragon's eyes. Glancing up, Tang Liu saw the blue dragon, who had just retracted his tail, and glanced at the red dragon with disgust. You know how to eat all day, aren't you embarrassed to be a dragon? Tang Liu vaguely felt that he heard. Then the red dragon, who was slapped in the face by the tail, flapped its little wings and flew back aggrievedly, and stopped beside the blue dragon without moving, with an autistic look on its face. Tang Liu couldn't help but think in his heart, do you soul beasts with high intelligence have such rich expressions on your faces? Then the blue dragon flew towards Tang Liu, looked at Tang Liu with its dragon eyes, then looked at the blue-black soul ring hovering around Tang Liu, and then leaped. Tang Liu was almost frightened to the point of teleportation. But the blue dragon just put its body into the 4 circles, and then seemed to be very comfortable and hummed softly. Not only that, it also happily turned over in the circles, turned its dragon eyes to Tang Liu, and blinked gently. Tang Liu, this painting is so weird. After the blue dragon got into the 4 circles, The red dragon also came over and wanted to get into the circles. But as soon as it stretched out its tail, it was mercilessly slapped by the blue dragon's claws, and then slapped the dragon's tail. Tang Liu thought he heard the red dragon's whimpering sound. The red dragon was very aggrieved, looking at Tang Liu for a while, and then looking at the blue dragon who was enjoying the blue circles. The dragon's face, which should have been fierce, looked strangely sad at this moment. Although Tang Liu felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by the red dragon, he didn't intend to pay attention to it. After all, he couldn't be sure whether these two dragons had any ill intentions towards him. Tang Liu raised his hand and carefully touched the body of the blue dragon in front of him. He didn't dare to touch the head directly, for fear of being bitten. If he was attacked by touching the body, he would at least have some reaction time. So his hand easily fell on the blue dragon. As expected, it passed through. Dragon spirits have no entity. But at this time, the blue dragon suddenly moved its head closer and soon touched Tang Liu's arm. Tang Liu was completely stiff, ready to activate the Hyaolin transmission at any time. But the blue dragon did not attack him, but squinted and rubbed his arm gently. Tang Liu clearly felt the hardness and coldness of the dragon scales, so he couldn't help but be a little surprised. He couldn't touch the dragon spirit, but the dragon spirit could touch him. After rubbing a few times, the blue dragon looked up at him, his eyes still squinting, and then opened his dragon mouth. "Ah, Tang Liu, you are a dragon, right? Since you are a dragon, why is your voice the same as little Funi's?" Tang Liu's expression was a little broken, and the whole person was a little broken. At this time, the red dragon also flew over secretly, and then the whole dragon was wrapped around Tang Liu's neck. The red dragon also closed his eyes, and the little tail fluttered happily, hitting Tang Liu's face again and again. Tang Liu felt that he wanted to be quiet. Don't ask him who Jing Jing is, he just wanted to be alone. Seeing this, the blue dragon stopped wow wow and looked at the red dragon on Tang Liu's neck, and his eyes gradually became dangerous. Tang Liu suddenly felt his neck was piercing, because the red dragon felt the danger, and the scales on his body stood up. The next moment, the blue dragon rushed out like lightning, opened his mouth and bit the dragon horn of the red dragon, and then rushed away quickly. So the red dragon with its dragon horn bitten was directly pulled out from Tang Liu's neck. Tang Liu felt that his neck was tightened, and then he watched the two dragons fighting each other in the distance, although most of the time it was the red dragon that was slapped several times by the blue dragon. "Tang Liu, this picture is getting more and more wrong, how about I leave quickly?" After the two dragons fought for a while, they came back flapping their wings. The blue dragon looked fierce and disgusted, while the red dragon was full of grievances. Anyway, one of them is the ultimate fire and the other is the ultimate ice, and neither of them can do anything to the other. But the blue dragon's defense is higher than the red dragon, and it is a little older than the red dragon, so the red dragon can only be beaten more often. So the red dragon ran to Tang Liu with grievances, wanting to ask for comfort. As a person at that time, Tang Liu said, "I am confused now, anyway, I am very confused." Tang Liu looked at the red dragon's aggrieved face, so he subconsciously raised his hand and stroked the red dragon's head. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Since you recognize me as your master, why do you plan to eat me as soon as we meet? Then the red dragon became happy again, its tail flapping happily again, slapping the blue dragon's bony head behind it. Tang Liu felt that the blue dragon was going to get angry again. In order to prevent himself from seeing the weird scene of angry old dragon, beating dragons online that would make people doubt their lives again, Tang Liu spoke first. "Wait a minute, do you two have names? Why are you pestering me?" The blue dragon looked at the red dragon with great disdain, snorted softly, and then squinted at Tang Liu and said softly "I" at the same time. An extremely clear girl's voice sounded in Tang Liu's mind. "Master, my name is Di Shuang, and the stupid and greedy one over there is my younger brother Di Yan." Although Tang Liu heard what it said clearly, he was still shocked by the tone. "My god, this blue dragon is actually a girl. Master, my name is Di Yan," the red dragon, who had just been stroked by Tang Liu, also but this time the voice that sounded in Tang Liu's mind was a boy's voice, soft and sticky. Wait a minute, how did I become your master?" Shouldn't your master be the Golden Dragon King and the Silver Dragon King? How is it related to me? Your bloodline is nobler than ours, so you are our master." The soft and sticky boy's voice sounded again. Tang Liu subconsciously looked at the red dragon beside him, and then saw it at him again. "Bloodline? I'm not from the dragon clan." Tang Liu was confused. The host is a descendant of Yan and Wang. In his mind, the system spoke silently. "That's right, but I am a soul, not a body." Tang Liu's mouth twitched. "The host is the martial soul Haolan magic," so the system said again. "Haolan magic can't give me the bloodline of the dragon clan. Moreover, he has the blood of grass and hammer flowing in his body. What does it have to do with dragons, huh?" The system was suspiciously silent for a few seconds, and then said in a rather rogue manner, "Anyway, they just rely on you, Tang Liu, dog system. You have been possessed again, right? What do you care? Anyway, they rely on you. I will explain the reason to you later, and they will not harm you. You actually took the initiative to talk to me? Then tell me quickly, why did you let me cross over?" Tang Liu was bolder now, so he began to test. "Don't ask. If you ask, it means you don't have enough authority," the voice said with some evil taste, and then there was no movement. Then the mechanical sound of the system rang again. "The host has been detected to have insulted the system. In order to maintain the system will be in a state of autism for 1 year. Enter autism in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8 Tang Liu, no, I just said dog system. The host has been detected to have insulted the system twice, and the system's autism time has doubled. Execute immediately. Bye, Tang Liu, I knock. Are all systems so unique now? I wonder if it is possible for me to end the autism state early if I praise it now?" Tang Liu looked at the two dragons, one blue and one red, and felt very tired. Although the system was closed, he could still check the data card by himself, but he could no longer ask questions to the system. Fortunately, his system had no other functions except online Q&A, so he was not very dependent on the system, and would not be in a situation where his strength would be reduced when the system was shut down. Which was also a good thing. He looked at the two dragons and said, "Well, I won't stay here for long, and I'll leave soon, and you'd better stay next to your corpses, otherwise you will dissipate." As a result, Tang Liu was embarrassed to look for soul bones on the dragon bones of the two dragons. Since he didn't plan to get soul bones, there was no point in staying here, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. The two dragons looked at each other, and then bowed to Tang Liu at the same time. "Yes, Lord, you can go. Don't worry about us." The soft and sticky boy's voice was Dian. "Lord, you have things to do outside, we understand." The crisp girl's voice was Di Shuang. Tang Liu looked at them with some doubts. Why did he feel that the script should not be like this? But he didn't say anything, nodded, and said, "Then I'll go. Ao goodbye." Master Tang Liu immediately launched the Haolan spell and disappeared in a blue light. After consuming about 70% of his soul power, Tang Liu came to the valley of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, and then saw Tang San, who was feeding herbs to Xiao Funi. After seeing him, Xiao Funi immediately left Tang San, rushed to Tang Liu's feet, and then pulled up his clothes to climb up, and finally came to Tang Liu's shoulder, and whispered to his ear, Ao, this time I didn't waste the herbs. Tang Liu, please don't Ao, otherwise I will think of the two dragons again. Xiao Liu, did you find anything down there? Tang San came over with a snow silkworm. Nothing, there's only spring water and mud down there. Tang Liu lied again. Tang San didn't see anything, and nodded gently. It's almost time for dinner. Wait a minute, I'll get you something to eat. Tang Liu immediately smiled. Okay, then he ran to the side, ready to recover his soul power first. After sitting cross-legged, Tang Liu felt a little itchy on his back, so he scratched it gently, and decided to find some water to take a bath later, and then began to recover his soul power. Little Funi jumped off his shoulder, curled up on his knees, and then began to practice. Whether Tang Liu was practicing or recovering his soul power, his body would leak out a little soul power, and these leaked soul powers had many benefits for him, better than eating 5 snow silkworms in a row. If he hadn't made a vow not to hurt Tang Liu, otherwise little Funi would have eaten Tang Liu and seen what the effect would be. Tang San cooked very quickly. After all, the food Douluo sent was basically edible, so Tang Liu's soul power was only restored to 80%, and then he was woken up by Tang San to eat. After a simple lunch, Tang San continued to identify the herbs, while Tang Liu ran to the side of the Yaoxiang Kilo immortal product to start practicing. The place where the Yaoxiang Kilo immortal product was located was the place where the ice and fire elements were most balanced in the entire yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Moreover, the unique medicinal properties of the Yaoxiang Kilo immortal product also allowed Tang Liu's Aeolin magic to relax the defense of Tang Liu's body a little, so that Tang Liu's practice speed would not be dragged down too much. However, not long after practicing, Tang Liu felt something was wrong. Because this time, the practice did not have the same feeling as before, the smooth feeling. Chapter 110 System. Now the soul power he activated was like a snail crawling, with a very uncomfortable feeling of stagnation. Just when Tang Liu was so uncomfortable that he wanted to open his eyes, he suddenly heard the sound of garbage being thrown into a basket in his mind, and then a line of words was suddenly thrown into his mind. The vast and boundless is Hao, the heavy and majestic is also Hao, the endless vitality is Lan, the vast and boundless is also Lan, the one who changes fate against the sky is the law, the one who rules the will is also the law, the one who changes in 1,000 ways is the art, the one who determines fate and luck is also the art. Looking at this golden big word, Tang Liu subconsciously recited it in his heart. Then the next moment, the soul power in his body was like a husky that had let go, running rapidly in the meridians. Tang Liu almost choked to death on his own saliva. What's going on? Is this soul power injected with chicken blood? Why did he suddenly get excited? Just as Tang Liu tried to calm down, the soul power in his body, which was running wild like a wild horse, slowly stopped from running at a super high speed. Tang Liu was silent for a few seconds, and then he silently recited the words again in his mind. So the soul power ran wild again. This time Tang Liu remembered to count, and found that after reciting the words once, the soul power in his body would run at an incredible speed in the next 5 seconds. So he silently recited it again. 5 seconds later, he saw on the data card that his soul power had reached level 43. Before, he helped the Shrek 7 devils to increase their soul power by 1 level, which directly reduced his cultivation level from level 45 to level 41. However, now, just by silently reciting the words that seemed to be the mental formula of Howland's spell 3 times, his soul power even increased by 2 levels. After a little thought, Tang Liu understood what was going on. So he decisively knelt down in the sea of spirit, clasped his hands together, and looked pious and regretful. System, I was wrong, please come out. No wonder his cultivation speed was so fast. It turned out that the system was reading this passage for him. Although it seems that the effect of his cultivation is better when he recites it himself than when the system recites it, it also means that he cannot devote himself to cultivation wholeheartedly, and he must stop and recite it from time to maintain rapid cultivation. I'm sorry, system, I didn't realize your goodness before, but now I finally wake up. I swear, I will change, I will treat you well. System, huh? The hosts are all pigs. Seeing that the system really won't lift the autism before the time comes, Tang Liu had to be sad and self-reliant. Now I regret it, especially regret it. It's just right to test the results of my cultivation of distraction control, Tang Liu thought silently, comforting himself, and then his mind was divided into two, one silently reciting the text, and the other fully urging soul power to cultivate. But not long after, he had to stop. Because the meridians had a faint tearing pain. Concentrating his mind and looking inward, Tang Liu found that the speed of soul power running was too fast, so the meridians could not bear it. Then why were there no hidden dangers when the system was there? So Tang Liu began to miss the good of the system again. System, I miss you, please come back soon. So Tang Liu had to divide his mind into 3 parts, one for silently reciting the text, one for urging soul power to practice, and the last one for real-time monitoring of the body's condition. Whenever the meridian showed signs of being unable to bear it, Tang Liu would temporarily stop silently reciting the text. Then he would continue to recite silently after recovering. In this way, with the continuous cooperation of the 3 parts of mind, Tang Liu successfully entered the state of practice. So his soul power level was very surprising, breaking through level 43, breaking through level 45, breaking through level 46, and finally staying at level 48. Then he woke up. Because the meridians were too painful, he couldn't hold on. But time also came to night. Tang Liu used the purple extreme demon eye, and then found Tang San who was practicing. Tang Liu exhaled lightly, and after the pain in the meridians dissipated for a while, He quietly stood up and stretched his muscles. It seems that if he read the text by himself, although it can make the soul power run faster, it will also cause great damage to the meridians. In this comparison, the system is indeed better. Tang Liu, who deeply realized his mistake for the nth time and hoped that the system would come back for the n+1st time, sighed with tears in his eyes for the n+2nd time. Tong, please come back soon. After quietly taking out some dry food to fill his stomach and feeding Xiao Funi with roasted chicken, Tang Liu took out the sleeping bag and spread it on the ground, got in and looked up at the starry sky, and then fell asleep. It is impossible to practice. Now the soul power is painful. Without the system's advice, Tang Liu did not dare to practice without authorization, so he planned to wait until the meridians were fully restored before continuing. So Tang Liu, who was asleep, and Tang San, who was in meditation, did not notice that the light radiating from the blazing Yangquan and the extremely cold ice spring became slightly stronger. Then two small heads with horns emerged from the spring. They first looked around carefully, and then they fixed their eyes on the sleeping Tang Liu. The eyes of the two little guys lit up, and then they swam quietly to the shore and slowly approached Tang Liu. Then, they opened their mouths at the same time and bit Tang Liu's shoulders on the left and right. But Tang Liu didn't seem to feel anything and was still sleeping soundly. So the next moment, the space was replaced. Tang Liu instantly appeared in the cave hall where the dragon bones were located, lying flat between the two giant dragon skulls, with his hands open, and the backs of his hands just touching the tips of the wing bones on both sides. Di Shuang and Di Yan then flew into the air, looking at Tang Liu lying flat on the ground, and their four little eyes revealed excitement. Sister, what should we do next? Di Yan said softly. Let the soul bone combine with the dragon blood that was left in the master's body before, and then merge with the master. Then we can rely on the soul bone and stay by the master's side. Yes, then we can recover our bodies. Let's start now without further ado. Okay. After the howling sound disappeared, the two dragons turned into two streams of light and returned to their own skeletons. The next moment, the entire cave hall was slightly shaken, and then the two huge dragon bones lit up red and blue light respectively. The red light and blue light first lit up from the eye sockets of the skull, then quickly spread from the head to the whole body, and finally ended at the tip of the wing bone under Tang Liu's hands. The two-color light illuminated the cave hall, then went up along Tang Liu's hands, and finally merged into his body. Chapter 111 Is Tang Hao cheating? The whole process lasted for half an hour. When the two-color light completely disappeared, Emperor Shuang and Emperor Yan appeared again, but their bodies shrank a lot, and then became more transparent. The two dragons flew above Tang Liu's body again and began to talk excitedly. Sister, we succeeded, just like what the firstborn said. After the soul bone and the master are fused, the soul is more stable. Yes, that person didn't lie to us. Okay, send the master out quickly, otherwise if the master wakes up, he will, what did that person say the master would do? He will be confused. Yes, the master will be confused when he wakes up and finds that he is not up there. Let's go, let's hurry up. Okay, but didn't he say that after the fusion is successful, the master should be soaked in the pool up there? So Emperor Yan successfully received a dragon tail slap. Stupid, what I said is to put the master in the pool up there. Tang Liu felt confused and felt that something was always howling beside his ears. But soon he didn't have time to pay attention to these things, because he didn't know when his back began to itch. So Tang Liu couldn't help but turn over and reach out to scratch the itchy place. Then this touch was terrible. What is that hard thing? So Tang Liu woke up all of a sudden. The moment he opened his eyes, a piece of red and blue invaded his eye sockets. Tang Liu, so I was so dishonest when I slept that I slept directly into the pond? After being confused for a while, Tang Liu went to see what the hard thing on his back was. When he turned his head, he saw a stretched red wing about 1.5 meters long. Tang Liu, have I traveled through time again? Or can I sleep interracial mutation? Looking to the other side, there is also a wing of the same shape, but this one is blue. The two wings are the kind of bone wings, with a layer of black flesh membrane between the bones, and a layer of thin red and blue scales on them respectively. There are also scales on the bones, and they are very gorgeous and have a very textured feel. And the pair of bone wings seem to be connected to his senses. When he reached out to touch them, he could clearly feel a tingling sensation on the bone wings. Tang Liu couldn't help but feel a headache and held his forehead. So what happened when I fell asleep? But looking at the familiar color and familiar shape, It must be the two dragons Di Shuang and Di Yan who did it, right? Tang Liu was about to call them, and then he realized that he was still soaking in the pool. Although he seemed to no longer be hurt by the ice and fire yin-yang ice spring water because of the pair of wings, Tang Liu didn't want to try the feeling of drinking this water. So Tang Liu tried to swim up and send himself out of the water. However, the moment he had this idea, the wings behind him immediately flapped hard under the water. Tang Liu hadn't reacted yet, and then the whole person flew out of the spring like a cannonball, and then went straight into the sky. Tang Liu, Nicole, when Tang Liu finally adapted and controlled the wings in the air, and then slowly flew down, he saw Tang San looking at him strangely beside the pool. "Xiao Liu, what are you doing?" Tang San couldn't help but speak as he watched the pair of wings behind Tang Liu turn into flowing light and merge into his body. He was originally in the process of training. But he woke up because of the loud noise of Tang Liu breaking through the water, and then he found that Tang Liu was gone. So he looked up, activated the purple extreme demon eye, and saw Tang Liu flying clumsily in the air. "Oh, it's just that two kind dragons gave me a pair of soul bones." Tang Liu really felt powerless to complain, so he took a set of clean clothes and changed his soaked clothes. "Soul bones?" Tang San was stunned, and then looked at Tang Liu with a weird look. "You got soul bones again, and it's a pair?" Tang Liu nodded. Tang San smiled and patted Tang Liu's shoulder. "Your luck, I envy you. Do you want it?" "I'll give it to you," Tang Liu said. However, before Tang San could say anything, he was interrupted by Emperor Shuang and Emperor Yan, who suddenly rushed out of Tang Liu's body. No. Not for you. Ao, don't even think about it." Tang San swallowed his saliva and looked at Tang Liu, and found that Tang Liu was staring at him with dead fish eyes. "These two are," Tang San asked. "Oh, they are dragons. The soul bones were given by them." "Oh, they are dragons." Tang San, "Wait, dragon, is it the dragon I imagined?" "Yes, it is a dragon. But it has become a dragon spirit, and it can be regarded as the guardian of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire," Tang Liu introduced vaguely. So Tang San became very interested in these two dragon spirits and began to talk to Di Shuang and Di Yan. Although there was still an AOW sound beside his ears, the voices of Di Shuang and Di Yan would sound directly in Tang San's mind. Tang San was certainly not stupid, so although he was asking Di Shuang and Di Yan about the dragon clan on the surface, he was secretly confirming whether these two dragons could pose a danger to Tang Liu. After he confirmed it, he found that these two dragons, let's put it this way, were a little silly. They are smart, but they are just stupid. They lived a little longer, but they were still stupid. They acted very arrogant in front of him, or what they called immortal. So Tang San quietly transferred them from the alert list to the continuous observation list. However, they kept calling Xiao Liu master. Could it be that Tang Liu naturally felt Tang San's gaze, so he said, "I don't know why they want to recognize me as the master, but anyway, I'm not a dragon." After this, Tang Liu didn't want to sleep anymore, and Tang San couldn't practice anymore, so he started to identify medicinal materials again until dawn. Then Tang San and Tang Liu cast their eyes to the east at the same time, waiting for the fish belly white to appear. Life in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire is very monotonous, but it has become a lot more lively since the arrival of Emperor Shuang and Emperor Yan. Emperor Shuang and Emperor Yan get along well with Xiao Funi, chasing and playing in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire all day long, and the whole valley is filled with awe. Moreover, maybe it was because of the appearance of dragon spirit, but Tang San found that the growth rate of the natural treasures in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire had become much faster. Chapter 112 Return to Shrek. Every day when Douluo came, Di Shuang, Di Yan and Xiao Funi would hide themselves and come out after Douluo left. Sometimes when they were bored, Tang Liu would take them out for a walk and get familiar with the new wings. Tang San continued his cultivation, identifying medicinal materials, refining antidotes for Douluo, and trying to make the King of Hell sticker. 3 months passed like this. Tang Liu's meridian pain was gone after the fusion of the pair of wings, but later he tossed it again, didn't grasp the degree, and injured his meridians again. Originally, after fusing the dragon wings, his physical fitness had already shown a trend of developing into a giant dragon. But even so, he still made his meridians unable to cultivate, and this time he cultivated for nearly 3 months. But fortunately, Tang Liu's cultivation has also reached the bottleneck of level 50, and the third round of soul power compression has also been nearly half completed, with obvious gains. When his cultivation reached level 50, he did not rush to condense the fifth soul ring of his Shaolin magic, but continued to suppress his soul power and improve his spiritual power. But after his spiritual power reached the boundless sea, it was difficult for him to go further. Perhaps he had to find a skill with spiritual attributes to improve his spiritual power to a tangible and intangible level. It took Tang San 3 months to identify the medicinal materials of the entire yin-yang eye of ice and fire. During this period, the poison in Douluo's body was also being successfully eliminated. At the same time, because the poison in his body was indeed being slowly eliminated, Douluo's attitude towards Tang San gradually improved, and he would even discuss the knowledge of using poison with Tang San. In response, Tang Liu said, "Haha, it smells really good." Then he would receive a somewhat angry roll of his eyes from Douluo. After getting along for so long, Douluo gradually discovered that Tang Liu was not as feared as he was when he threatened people, and was very easygoing. Moreover, Tang Liu gave Douluo some of his soul power from time to time, so Douluo recently felt that the bottleneck of level 91 was about to be broken. This also made Douluo realize that Tang Liu was not bragging when he said that he would give him a chance to reach level 99. Everything went smoothly. So time passed quickly. 6 months passed. During this period, Master and Flanders came twice, both to visit Tang San and Tang Liu, and then found that the two brothers and Douluo got along very well. Although it was a bit strange, because Tang San and Tang Liu did not encounter any safety problems, Master and Flanders did not doubt it. After instructing them to return to Shrek Academy directly after learning here, they left. In the past 6 months, Tang Liu still has not condensed a soul ring, but the third soul power compression is almost completed. Now it has reached 4/5, and the victory of the revolution is not far away. Tang San's soul power also improved by leaps and bounds. From the 35th level when he first came, he has reached the 37th level and is about to break through to the 38th level. Moreover, just today, Tang San successfully refined the soul-chasing and life-taking Hades sticker, which ranks 3rd among the 100 solutions of Tang Sek's hidden weapons. When Tang Liu found that Tang San was about to succeed, he realized that the day of the copy of the ice and fire yin-yang eyes they left was coming, and at the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little anxious. He had long been tired of staying in the ice and fire yin-yang eyes, and he wanted to start the copy of the Sunset Forest 7 monsters to obtain the 4th soul ring immediately, and then go to the all-continental high-level Soul Master Elite competition as soon as possible. But he also understood that these things could not be rushed, so he tried his best to calm down and wait slowly. As the fusion with the Dragon Wing's external soul bone gradually deepened, Tang Liu's physical fitness and physical strength were also gradually increasing, so he practiced more recklessly. Typically, he would torture his meridians to the critical point of collapse before he would stop. Of course, he dared to be so reckless, partly because his body's self-healing ability was getting stronger and stronger. The pain in the meridians was gone after a few days, and then he started practicing again, and the cycle repeated. So Douluo took back the Dansu that remained in Tang San's body, and then said that he could let Tang San go. However, it was so sudden, and Tang San was still reluctant to part with the medicinal materials of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire in Douluo's. So Douluo was fooled by Tang San into becoming a senior consultant of Shrek Academy, and 3 days later, Tang San took away all the natural treasures of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. And he used the Ruai Beibao bag that Douluo gave him. So Douluo was furious. The spectator Tang Liu said it was wonderful, really wonderful, a good show of making something out of nothing, secretly crossing the Chengkang Pass, imagining it out of thin air, and fabricating it out of thin air. We won't talk about these episodes that everyone is probably tired of seeing. In short, in the end, Douluo still obediently returned to Shrek Academy with Tang San and Tang Liu. Since reaching the 92nd level, Douluo did not ask Tang Liu to take back the Shaolin mark left in his body, because he found that Tang Liu used this mark to input soul power into his body, so that it could be perfectly absorbed by him, otherwise it would be rejected. Therefore, in order to improve his level, he endured it even if the Shaolin mark threatened his life. Moreover, after getting along for so long, he also believed that Tang Liu's character was definitely not the type who liked killing. When the three returned to Shrek Academy, Tang San negotiated with a guard first, and then asked the guard to call Dean Flanders, and the three of them waited outside the gate. Then soon, Flanders, Master, Liu Erlong, Zhao Wuji, Lu Kibin, Xiao Xin, Liu Song, the most powerful combination of the Shrek 7 devils, came out of the academy. Sending out this lineup as soon as they met was naturally to guard against the old monster Douluo, although the chances of winning were still very low. So Tang Liu couldn't help shaking his head. It's really hard to start from scratch. Look at how difficult the first generation of Shrek Academy was. The Dean is only level 78 now. Look at the later period. The Dean must have started as a super Douluo. At the same time, the real person in power, the Sea God Pavilion Master, must be a level 99 extreme Douluo, not to mention that he can cultivate to more than 100 levels after 30,000 years. However, it was also these first-generation predecessors who laid the foundation for Shrek Continent to become the first academy. Thinking about it carefully, they are really worthy of admiration. So Tang Liu felt respect for them for the first time. After knowing Tang San's intention to bring Douluo, the teachers of Shrek Academy were surprised at first, and then became weird and happy. Especially Flanders. Then, Flanders took Douluo to arrange his accommodation. Chapter 113 It's time to take medicine. After watching Douluo leave, the master took Tang San to find the other 6 monsters. Tang Liu wanted to follow them directly, but when he saw the master and Liu Erlong, he knew that the two had made almost no progress, so he was a little worried for his end, so he didn't follow the master and chased after Liu Erlong. After the master and Tang San walked away, Tang Liu couldn't help but pull Liu Erlong away. And, how is the progress? When Liu Erlong mentioned this, she couldn't help but become a little resentful. It's okay, at least your uncle won't hide from me now. No, it's just that the progress is still a little slow. Have you tried it? Tang Liu asked. So Liu Erlong's pretty face turned red, and her voice became a little lower. No, I haven't found where to sell the thing. Well, it doesn't matter. I just heard from Douluo that a prescription can achieve the same effect. I will write that prescription to you later, and you can go to get the medicine secretly. But remember, you must not let your uncle find out that you took the initiative to give it to him. You must make him think that he accidentally ate it and then lost control of himself. Okay, don't say it, I still remember it. Liu Erlong rolled his eyes at him unhappily, raised his hand and knocked on his head, and said with a little anger. Then have you thought of a suitable way? Tang Liu was not annoyed, and laughed. Don't worry, according to the ideas you gave me, I have thought of no less than 10 feasible methods, which are completely adaptable to any emergency situation. As long as the medicine is in hand, Xiagang will be tricked. Liu Erlong's eyes were shining, and there was a little tempting blush on her face. Okay, I'll write the prescription for you now. Without saying anything, Tang Liu took out paper and pen from the storage soul guide and started writing. Liu Erlong looked over curiously and found that the name of the prescription was I love a piece of firewood. Tisk, it makes people blush inexplicably. Liu Erlong couldn't help thinking. After writing it, Tang Liu handed the prescription to Liu Erlong. Liu Erlong grabbed it and rushed out of the academy, and asked him to find Master and Tang San. And, don't be anxious. You can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. You must take your time and grasp every degree. Got it, Liu Erlong replied perfunctorily, and at the same time couldn't help complaining in his heart. I have been waiting for so many years, how can I not be anxious? After watching Liu Erlong go away, Tang Liu went to find the Shrek 7 devils. After asking people along the way, he finally came to the mimicry training area, and then happened to run into Xiaowu picking up the acacia heartbroken red. So Tang Liu was stunned, then he couldn't help laughing and looked at Tang San. This time, my sister-in-law was completely settled. Tang San had already distributed the Kirantong Xianju, the 8-petal fairy orchid, the coxcomb phoenix sunflower, and the Kilo tulip to Daimyu Bei, Oscar, Ma Hongjin, and Ningrongrong. In the end, Xiao Wu got the acacia heartbroken red, Zhu's Hukin got the narcissus jade muscle bone, and the master got the 9th grade purple ganoderma. After seeing Tang Liu coming over, Tang San gave him the morning dew black grass that he had wanted to give him for a long time. Morning dew black grass is mild in nature, just eat it directly. Don't worry, it's not bitter. Tang San gave the white grass stained with the morning dew to Tang Liu. How old am I? Am I still afraid of suffering? Tang Liu rolled his eyes. So Tang San was stunned, then smiled. Yes, you have grown up, although it was still so small. Tang Liu took the morning dew black grass and walked to the corner to sit down, and then put the grass directly into his mouth. But he didn't swallow it directly, because he had a more efficient way to absorb it. Before eating it, Tang Liu had already left the hyaline mark on the morning dew grass, and then directly absorbed all the medicinal power of the morning dew grass through the hyaline mark. The morning dew grass in the mouth quickly withered because of the loss of medicinal power. Finally, Tang Liu chewed it quickly before it turned into ashes, and then swallowed it into his stomach. Well, it tastes good, sweet. Then Tang Liu went to feel his physical condition. The soul power is still at a bottleneck, but the meridians have become stronger, and the impurities in the body have been further reduced, and the body has become more transparent and pure. Although it is not known how much the soul power has increased, Tang Liu estimates that once the soul ring is obtained, the soul power will conservatively increase to level 54. However, Tang Liu is still not in a hurry. It is not too late to attach the soul ring after the third soul power compression is completed. And this day is not far away, at most 5 months. By then, the Shrek 7 devils will almost all reach level 40, and it will be time to start the Sunset Forest dungeon, and then it will be the all-continent high-level Spirit Master Elite competition that he has been thinking about. Thinking of this, Tang Liu also opened his eyes again, and then watched the 7 devils absorb the medicinal power of the fairy grass. As the only one who did not take the fairy grass, Xiao Wu immediately noticed that Tang Liu had opened his eyes, so she asked curiously in a low voice, "Xiao Liu, have you finished absorbing it?" Tang Liu smiled and lowered his voice, "Well, after all, I am already level 50, it is normal to absorb it faster." After saying that, he successfully received a shocked look from Xiao Wu. "So fast, maybe the place where I stayed before had more heaven and earth energy." Tang Liu said so. After all, the truth was a bit shocking, and Xiao Wu didn't understand it. But it's still too fast. Xiao Wu was still surprised, but she didn't ask any more questions. Then Tang Liu and her sat quietly, waiting for everyone to finish absorbing, and they waited until sunset. Oscar was the first to finish absorbing, and then he told Tang Liu and Xiao Wu that his soul power had increased by 5 levels, and now it was level 38. Tang Liu couldn't stand his boasting, so he decisively told him that he was already level 50, so Oscar was choked and speechless. The second was Ning Rongrong, whose soul power increased by 6 levels, and now it was level 37. At the same time, his 7 treasures glazed pagoda also evolved into 9 treasures glazed pagoda. The third was Tang San. After Tang San woke up, he immediately received a hug and a kiss from Ning Rongrong, and then Oscar and Xiao Wu's faces became strange, only Tang Liu showed an ant smile. Fortunately, what Ning Rongrong said later also relieved Oscar and Xiao Wu, otherwise this jealous jar would not know how long it would last. Then, Tang San, whose purple extreme demon had risen to the mustard seed realm, saw through Xiao Wu's soul beast identity, but he did not show anything. At the same time, because of the significant increase in mental power, Tang San's purple extreme demon eye actually made several people a little afraid to look at him, and they only felt a faint sense of oppression. Among the few people, only Tang Liu was not affected at all. After all, his mental power was now as boundless as a vast ocean, and he had reached the Soul Douluo realm. Chapter 114. The style changed as soon as he made a move. Xiao Wu was a little nervous when Tang San looked at her like this, but she hid it very well. However, this made Tang Liu, who knew all the inside stories, laugh so hard that he thought the melon was very sweet. The next one to wake up was Zhu Xiuqing, whose soul power had increased by 7 levels, and her current soul power level was 38. Then Xiao Wu learned her lesson and stood in front of Zhu Xiuqing in advance to prevent her from throwing herself into his arms again. Then came the master. As soon as the master woke up, he walked out of the wooden house, because his body was full of dirt after taking the 9th grade purple fungus, and he urgently needed to be cleaned. Then came Ma Hongjin, who was also covered in dirt, but he was thinner and the flames on his body turned golden red, no longer evil. His soul power increased by 5 levels, and it was currently 36. However, if the fiery apricot had not yet bred the fiery glue, if Ma Hongjin had eaten it, his fire phoenix would have become the ultimate fire. As of now, the quality of Ma Hongjin's flames is still a few points away from the ultimate fire. Finally, it was Daimyo Bei. He successfully reached the bottleneck of level 40, and he only needed to obtain 1 spirit ring to break through level 40. Then, this guy kept pretending to be unconscious, and took the opportunity to flirt with Zhu Xiuqing, which made Tang Liu feel unbearable. Anyway, everyone was awake now, so Tang Liu left and prepared to go back to the dormitory to practice. seizing every minute and every second to condense his spirit power. In his impression, there was nothing special to happen next. As for the trouble of the Power Clan, it would take several days to start. But time always passed so quickly in the hard practice. When Daimyo Bei came back after obtaining the 4th spirit ring, Tang Liu realized that Tai Long was going to cause trouble. So when he finally stopped skipping classes and ran back to the classroom, he met Tang San bullying Tai Long on the way. But Tang Liu didn't say anything, nor did he intervene. He just followed Tang San and the others to class from that day on. Then the next day, Tai Long's father Tian Yuo came. After a battle, Tang San barely defeated Tian Yuo, who was at the Soul King level, with a poison of the 8 spider lance, and successfully became famous in Shrek Academy and gained countless female fans. Tang Liu still did not make a move this time, and still watched coldly. Until Grandpa, I beg you, let's go back quickly. If you are like this, how can I practice well in the academy in the future? Tai Long persuaded the tall and strong Titan earnestly, feeling extremely embarrassed. Although it feels good to be protected by the elders, it also depends on the occasion. Let an old man bully a teenager who is basically the same age as him and even younger. How can he put his face? But Titan still hugged his chest and closed his eyes, looking unmoved, and personally interpreted anyway, I have a thick skin, and it doesn't matter if I lose a little. But in fact, when Tian Yuo explained how he was defeated, Titan realized that Tang San might have an external spirit bone and was a rare genius. So he wanted to absorb him into his family, so he accepted it even if he was bullying the weak. Tisk, so what's wrong with these people? Why do they like to lure people into their own family at every turn? And the methods are similar. Either making a bet to indirectly force people to submit, or making people choose between submission and death to directly force people to submit. So when Tang San accepted the challenge and was about to collapse under the pressure of Titan, Tang Liu silently used Haolin recovery and void spirit protection on Tang San. So the next moment, Tang San, who was originally unable to hold on, immediately stood up again, looking at the old Titan with burning eyes. Tang Liu cast a void spirit anonymity on himself, and under the effect of void spirit protection, he easily walked into the pressure of Titan, stood behind Tang San without anyone noticing, and slapped him on the back. So, the gentle light blue soul power originally emanating from Tang San, instantly turned into a slightly aggressive blue-black. Then, the blue-black soul power under the pressure was unhappy in an instant, and the light shone brightly, directly rolling back all the pressure of Titan, and then flashed. The sound of broken glass seemed to ring in the ears of the people present. So the next moment, the pressure from Titan disappeared completely. Titan didn't even have time to be surprised, and didn't even have time to say the classic how is it possible or what. The blue-black light immediately found the source of the pressure, and then pounced in front of Titan. With a muffled bang, the old Titan was beaten back 5 or 6 steps by the domineering blue-black light. The people around were stunned and couldn't say anything for a while. So Tang Liu walked out from behind Tang San silently at this time. His face was extremely pale but very calm, and he wiped the blood from the corner of his lips as if nothing had happened. He naturally grabbed Tang San's left arm, and then a blue light suddenly rose around him. So the vision of most people present was blocked, except for the old Titan, Zhao Wuji, and Ning Fengzi, who had just arrived, and Gurong, a bone Douluo, and others. Then Tang Liu urged the power of the Haolin mark, so Tang San released the clear sky hammer uncontrollably. Tang Liu grabbed his hand and shook it gently, and the clear sky hammer smashed to the ground with a bang, which immediately attracted the attention of those whose vision was not blocked. So their eyes froze almost at the same time. Especially the old Titan, whose expression changed several times, and finally stopped at surprise and disbelief. His eyes immediately fell on Tang San again, and then turned to Tang Liu the next moment. Because Tang Liu spoke at this time. Recognized? Then are you going to fight? Tang Liu's words were very calm, and his eyes were also calm, but his pale face showed a trace of fatigue. Alice, for such a mess, isn't it better to practice well? So the old Titan nodded, and for some reason, he didn't dare to speak. That's good. Tang Liu also nodded, turned around and patted Tang San's shoulder. He will tell you something later. After you listen, if you still want to know, come to me and I'll tell you something. I'm practicing in the dormitory. After saying that, he turned and left, and the blue light around him dispersed. However, before the blue light dissipated, he waved his right hand lightly, and a blue light flashed in everyone's eyes. The next moment, The incense stick that was hit by the old titan into the wall of the teaching building, which was less than half burned, was directly cut in half from the top. So the fire burning on it was extinguished. Chapter 115. Is it really going to be dark? Tang Liu walked slowly towards the dormitory amid the curious, surprised or fanatical gazes of the students around him. Perhaps it started when he told Tang Hao that he wanted to be his pride, or even earlier when he cut off a Rakshas's head with one step, or even more so when he silently stroked his bracelet in the lounge of the fighting arena, or maybe when he bet all his gold soul coins on himself. In short, after a certain time point in the examples or the examples not mentioned above. In this world, except for Tang Hao, Yin, Tang San, who are very important to him, or very important to Tang Hao, Yin and Tang San. Others don't seem to be that important. Maybe these positions may be filled with his lover, who may or may not exist in the future. But in short, from a certain point in time, there is only one thing he wants to do. To make up for the regrets of all the important people in his heart. Then, maybe he will take his lover back to sea. Maybe he may not be able to help but settle down with his lover in a peaceful and stable place. Maybe he can't help but take his parents over. Of course, if they can adapt to that place and don't object. If he still has a chance to go back. When he made up his mind to actively interfere with this world, in short, he became stronger. Whether it is strength or heart. Haha, why does it feel like I am about to become a villain? Tang Liu laughed at himself silently, and then his figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. Tang San learned about Tang Hao's identity and his own life experience from Titan, and then reached a deal with the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect. Although this deal can make him a lot of money, his mood did not get better. After saying something to his companions, Tang San returned to the dormitory with a heavy heart. Pushing open the door, Tang San saw Tang Liu leaning on the chair, who seemed to have been waiting for him for a long time. Tang San pulled another chair in the dormitory and sat opposite Tang Liu. After hesitating for a long time, he spoke. Have you known this for a long time? Tang Liu did not answer, but looked at him for a while, and asked back, do you hate him? Don't hide it, tell me your truest thoughts. Tang San was silent for a moment, a little bit, after all, so many years it's right to hate. Tang Liu interrupted him, but don't blame him, although he was indeed quite stupid. So, Xia Liu, do you know why Dad has become so miserable? Yes, I know. Tang Liu narrowed his eyes slightly, with a light flashing in his pupils. Have you ever wondered why we have never seen our mother, and Dad never mentioned it to us? Tang San was not stupid, and when Tang Liu mentioned this, he thought a lot in an instant. So it really has something to do with our mother. Tang Liu nodded slightly. Of course, there is also the spirit hall. Then was it the spirit hall that hurt our mother? But why was she persecuted by the spirit hall, and why did Dad? Tang San asked these questions anxiously. Tang Liu tapped the armrest of the chair, as if thinking about how to explain to Tang San, and then said, if one day, many people want to kill Xia Wu, what will you do? Tang San was stunned, and then said hesitantly, if there is really a chance, those people must step over my body first. Yes. Tang Liu spread his hands. That's the reason. It's just that the sacrifice saved someone's life, and that person also had 2 children. So he was timid and didn't dare to gamble with his life again. He was afraid that if he gambled like this, he would have nothing left. But one day, he found that his 2 sons were so extraordinary. So, should he continue to hide them well under his wings that were already broken but still able to shelter from the wind and rain, or just let go and let the 2 unicorns pursue their own wind and clouds, and then turn into dragons soaring into the sky? He chose the latter. And he was never disappointed. However, I was threatened by my father and cannot tell you too much, and this is all I know at the moment. So, it's okay to hate him. He is a person who should be hated. Who made him so cruel? Tang Liu tilted his head and then threw the blame to Tang Hao, who is now nowhere to be found. Tang San's mouth twitched, and his originally solemn expression was instantly replaced by helplessness. Okay, when I knew he was a titled Douluo, I guessed that he concealed his identity in order to hone us, Tang San said. Well, it's good that you understand. If you want to know something else, go ask the master. He knows more than me. Don't be too sad. Remember what I told you before, when you were not in college, we weren't always watching you in the dark. Now, maybe he is watching us quietly somewhere. After saying this, Tang Liu stretched and yawned as he walked towards his bed. As he walked, he said vaguely, besides, instead of having time to feel sad, it is better to practice for a while. reach the 99th level of title Douluo as soon as possible, and take revenge no matter what grudges you have. Hearing this, Tang San couldn't help laughing. Are you so confident that you can practice to the 99th level? Yeah, almost. If I don't compress my soul power, I am almost a soul Douluo now. Do you believe it? Then Tang Liu stopped talking, climbed onto the bed, and began to practice. After all, when he broke the pressure of Titan before, he consumed a lot of soul power. Tang San watched Tang Liu practice, and then suddenly said, Xiao Liu, do you think there is a possibility of a martial soul fusion skill between the two of us? Maybe, probably, maybe, Tang Liu responded vaguely. Tang San stopped talking, turned around and climbed onto the bed, and began to practice. Since Titan knew that Tang San and Tang Liu were the sons of Haoshan Douluo, Titan asked Tai Long to follow them all the time, saying that he would protect their safety closely. Originally, Titan wanted to send a member of the Power Clan, because Tang San and Tang Liu were two people after all, and Tai Long couldn't be used as two people. In the end, Tang Liu showed the same momentum as the day they first met and sternly refused, so Titan had to give up the idea. But this made Tai Long suffer because Tang San went to class on time every day, while Tang Liu skipped classes every day and locked himself in the dormitory to practice. In addition, Titan ordered him to keep track of the two people's movements at all times, so basically after each class, Tai Long had to go to the dormitory to confirm whether Tang Liu had left. Tang Liu couldn't stand this hardship, so he stopped skipping classes and followed Tang San to go to school on time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Heading to Sunset Forest. 3 days later, the master also called Tang San to have a talk, and then his heart knot was completely untied, and he practiced harder. So Tang Liu began to trick him into skipping classes and practicing in the dormitory with him. I'm not like you. The teacher has assigned me a task. If I don't meet the cultural assessment standards, I will be punished, Tang San said helplessly. There was no way. Tang Liu was favored by both the master and Liu Erlong. Even if Tang Liu skipped so many classes before, they simply closed their eyes and didn't care at all. So time went by like this, half a year passed in class and practice. Among the Shrek 7 devils, except Xiao Wu, they all reached the bottleneck of level 40. Tang Liu also completed his third soul power compression, and then condensed his fifth soul ring of the Haolan spell. It was not far from the estimate. His soul power broke through to level 53 in one fell swoop, and was only one step away from level 54. In addition, it is worth mentioning that Liu Erlong finally succeeded in taking down the master in the past 6 months. Now, according to the plan taught by Tang Liu, she is being close to the master. Then, as she wished, the master's attention to her became more obvious. She was naturally very happy, but in order not to be exposed, her attitude towards the master was still lukewarm. However, looking at the master's look of wanting to speak, ask, but not being satisfied, but unable to speak, Liu Erlong was so happy in her heart. Because of this, Liu Erlong liked Tang Liu even more. She also secretly told Tang Liu about the master's embarrassment and asked Tang Liu to think of some ways for her. And, I'm telling you, playing hard to get is definitely a good idea. If you get too close to him, he won't cherish you, but if you're too far away from him, he'll think you're planning to let go and start a new relationship, and then he'll silently bless you. So, now you have to pretend to find a partner, who has a lot in common with him, but isn't as good as him, and then you have to flirt with this non-existent partner, make him jealous, make him feel sour, eat lemons, and make him realize how important you are in his heart. As for how to find such a partner, you can pretend to make a friend in the form of a letter, and then the content of the letter should be a little more ambiguous, but not too much, just make him feel uncomfortable and sour. Of course, you can't find this partner yourself, because he may find out that you're deceiving him from the handwriting, writing habits, etc., so this person must really exist, but it doesn't have to be the way you describe it. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah, I understand, Liu Erlong, who was almost taking out a small notebook to take notes, nodded seriously. So Liu Erlong continued her strategy process. Then, after a few days of preparation, the Shrek 7 devils, Tang Liu, Flanders, Master, Liu Erlong and Zhao Wuji headed towards the Sunset Forest to help the children who had reached the bottleneck to obtain spirit rings. There are currently 6 people who need spirit rings: Oscar, Tang San, Ma Hongjin, Ning Rongrong, Zhu Zhuqing and Tang Liu. Tang Liu's plan is to go to the Sunset Forest with everyone, first find a suitable spirit beast to cover, and then quietly borrow the ring from Xiaofuni to absorb it, and upgrade the Void Spirit Blue Silver Emperor to the Soul Sect level. He has already thought about what spirit skills he wants to borrow this time. If it weren't for the difficulty in explaining, he would have absorbed the 4th spirit ring long ago. Going to the Sunset Forest to obtain spirit rings, the 4 teachers basically won't take action, saying that it is one of the graduation assessments for their disciples. The 7 devils and Tang Liu naturally have no objections, so the Golden Triangle Love plus Aquila middle-aged sightseeing group and the Shrek 7 devils plus Tang, Ranru, 6 tour guides came to the Sunset Forest and toured there for a day. As a result, the original soul beasts who passed by here innocently were beaten by the 7 monsters several times. Those who were unlucky were often beaten to death and could only rely on the intestines of a certain ska to forcibly prolong their lives. The beaten soul beasts, although we are not human, you are really dogs, tigers, cats, cows, horses, chickens, ducks, snakes, fish, geese, especially the one who stuffed an unknown column into our mouths with a wretched face. The time was spent in the joy of beating soul beasts while sightseeing. The sky gradually darkened, and everyone found a place to camp and rest for a while. Everyone set up 2 tents in total, one for the students and one for the teachers. After eating something simple to fill their stomachs, it was completely dark at this time. As the boss of the 7 monsters, Daimyo Bei naturally took on the first round of night watch. But what puzzled him was that Tang Liu insisted on guarding the first round with him, saying that he would prevent the influence of force majeure. While saying this, he also winked at him like a convulsion. Tang Liu, tasted quickly, tasted carefully. Daimyo Bei, okay. After seeing Daimyo Bei reluctantly nodded, Tang Liu looked at Liu Erlong who had been watching them not far away, and quietly gestured to her. Tang Liu, do you understand what I mean? Liu Erlong, yes, I understand what you mean. Then the 2 nodded at the same time and reached a consensus. Master, suddenly felt a chill on the back. So tonight, when Daimyo Bei rushed back to the camp with the King of the Earth and shouted something is happening, Tang Liu, who had been prepared for a long time, began to act. First, he teleported Flanders and Zhao Wuji out of the tent, and then a Hyaolin force field locked the Master and Liu Erlong in the tent. And, don't worry, I won't let you go crazy. Tang Liu tilted his head, and the corners of his lips couldn't help but rise. Inside the tent, the Master who lifted the curtain to see the dazzling Hyaolin force field, then he turned around and saw the naked Liu Erlong. Teacher Erlong had a twisted smile on his face, his voice was a little hoarse and charming, as if he was trying his best to suppress something. Just given, zigzagging there was silence in the tent for a second, and then there was a burst of extremely triumphant laughter. Don't run a hem-ha-ha outside the tent. Flanders and Zhao Wuji, who had excellent hearing, Daimyo Bei, who watched Tang Liu use the Hyaolin force field to nail the King of the Earth to the ground alive, then he silently retracted his escape posture and the action of preparing to release the 4th soul skill. Tang Liu, whose plan succeeded, hey, after he said he said to Ma Hongjin, who had just walked out of the tent, Fatty, come quickly, your 4th soul ring has been found. Chapter 117, A Ghost Tiger's Autobiography. Ma Hongjin, what the hell, how come the world is different after waking up? Can the spirit ring come to you by itself? But he still ran over happily, and then he easily killed the King of the Earth who was pinned to the ground and couldn't move. Tang Liu also took back his martial spirit, and then the sequelae of frequent use of Hyaolin spells came up. His steps were weak, and the whole person staggered for a while, and then sat down on the ground. But his eyes were gratified. Looking at the tent where indescribable sounds were faintly coming from, he thought to himself, Auntie, I can help you here, and the rest depends on your skills. For Teacher Erlong, this night was extremely pleasant, and for the Master, this night was painful and happy. As for the poor single dog Flanders and Teacher Zhao Wuji, they had to block their hearing for a whole night before they could barely rest. For the students, this night was no different from what they had spent before. Everyone took turns to keep watch, and also took turns to protect Ma Hongjin who was absorbing the spirit ring. As for Tang Liu, whose blue bar was almost emptied, he practiced until dawn to recover his soul power. After all, his system, which was rigid in tone and was often possessed by others but had a strong personality and was autistic, no longer cared about him, so he had to be very careful to control this soul power running at super high speed, so as not to make his meridians hurt again. Ma Hongjin absorbed all the soul rings in the early morning and officially entered the soul sect sequence. After a simple breakfast, Shrek and his party took action again. However, the master with a face full of kidney deficiency was naturally teased by Flanders and Zhao Wuji, and then glared back by the radiant teacher Erlong. The crowd continued to go deeper into the forest, and then they were attacked by the wife of the king of the earth and his wife's younger brothers last night. The pink lady and her large group of pink girls arrived at the battlefield in 5 seconds. So there was another battle, and Oscar also obtained his 4th soul ring, which could increase all attributes by 10% without side effects, and excited the pink intestines. So Tang Liu looked at Oscar, who was showing off his soul skills, and then looked at Ma Hongjin, who was not far away. These two people each absorbed the husband and wife of a soul beast couple, and it seemed to hint at something. Then he looked at the top of Ning Rongrong's head. Well, there is no green for the time being. The group has not encountered a suitable soul beast again, so naturally, Tang San proposed the method of fragrance attracting soul beasts, so everyone went to Douluo's poison formation without stopping. The poison formation set up by this poison, Douluo, is enough to resist most of the soul beasts in the Sunset Forest. At that time, the soul beasts attracted and selected by Tang San with the fragrant Kilo immortal product will be blocked outside the poison formation, and everyone can also safely choose the soul beast that suits them in the poison formation. After the selection, Flanders, Liu Erlong and Zhao Wuji, the 3 soul saints, will use the flying claws to catch the soul beasts and let the students kill them and absorb the soul rings. It can be said to be a very convenient and quick idea. Tai Long, let me tell you, the idea of fragrant soul attracting beast that third brother came up with is really awesome. You don't know that after third brother took out a flower, all the soul beasts in the Sunset Forest rushed over. It was a spectacular scene. It's a pity that you didn't see it. After returning from the Sunset Forest, Ma Hongjin dragged Tai Long to chat. At that time, it was a 1,000-year-old ghost tiger that rushed over first, and rushed towards the flower in third brother's hand without saying a word. But how could we let it succeed, right? So we all went up and fought with the 3 shadow clones of the ghost tiger. You don't know? Then Zaya Aliu took action. My name is Ghost Tiger, a tiger soul beast that is more than 4,000 years old and is good at speed. I live in the Sunset Forest. I have a super cool innate soul skill called Shadow Clone. As the name suggests, every time I use this soul skill, I can see my dark but handsome appearance with my own eyes, without the need for reflections on the water or something. Oh, my god, every time I see my graceful and agile figure, I can't help but be moved. Oh my god. How can my brain be so beautiful? When I was just 100-year soul beast, my shadow clone could only create one handsome me. But when I entered the millennium, I could use the shadow clone to create a cool me. As long as I enter the 10,000-a-year level, I can split 3 domineering and cool me at once. I can have a pleasant time with 3 beautiful me. Just thinking about it makes my tiger heart excited. Oh my god, what kind of fairy life is that? I have always lived in the Sunset Forest with such expectations, wandering in the forest with my super good-looking clone. If we are hungry, we will catch herbivorous soul beasts together to eat, and if we are tired, we will sleep together. Our little life is very comfortable, and then one day, I suddenly smelled a faint fragrance that I was extremely eager for, so I couldn't help but take my clone and quickly go to the place where the faint fragrance came from. I was so excited that I couldn't help myself. Because I seemed to see a road that could quickly reach the 10,000 years level in front of me and my clone. We looked at each other with affection. In order to get the happy life of the 4 tigers, let's go along the way. We also saw many soul beasts running towards the place where the fragrance came from. But we won't let them succeed, because they are not as fast as us. We arrived. We saw it. It was a flower. The flower that we really wanted to eat. But the flower was held in the hand of a hateful human. There were other hateful humans around that human. They also beat me and my handsome clone Kak. The human whose martial spirit seemed to be a tiger also hit my clone with a meteor Kak, but because he was also a good-looking tiger, my clone and I temporarily forgave him. But the human whose martial spirit was a rabbit actually used his feet to throw my clone into the sky and then smashed it to the ground Kak. After it hit the ground, the fat human burned my clone with fire Kak. But it doesn't matter, I still insist on getting that flower for my clone. But the human holding the flower actually has blue fire in his eyes, and my head hurts so much that I almost become mentally retarded cack. But I think I can do it. I must get that flower. So, I will definitely defeat these hateful two-legged beasts. First, let's start killing this two-legged beast with 5 blue rings around it. Wait. 5. Damn. It's actually a Soul King. Greek letter sigma, Cyrillic letter dec. Don't panic. Even if it's a Soul King, it can't stop my determination to get that flower. But this human with blue rings, why is he so fragrant, even more fragrant than that flower? No, I don't want the flower. I want him. Then the ghost tiger suddenly rushed towards Tang Liu, scaring us all, Ma Hongjin said with a beaming face. And then what? Keep talking, Tai Long and his friends urged. Oh, and then the ghost tiger died. Tai Long, Jingling and Wang Yuan and Jiangsu, small theater, ghost tiger, he smells so good, I must take him back and eat him. Tang Liu, take your sister's food, eat my mana-consuming force field. Ghost tiger, Dine, I can Zuzhuking. No, you can't. Netherworld stab kills, Daimyu Bei. So what kind of perverted soul beast did you fuse with? Zuzhuking. Chapter 118, The Confessions of the Scaled Armored Crypt Spider and the Human-Faced Demon Spider. After dealing with a ghost tiger, we help Rongrong catch a 4,000-year-old scaled beast. I am a scaled beast, a 4,000-year-old defensive soul beast, living in the sunset forest. I am a fool. Because one day I smelled a very tempting scent, so I went there slowly. After arriving at the territory of the tidal Douluo who used to live in the sunset forest, I was blocked by the poison formation of the tidal Douluo. But I still managed to see the source of the fragrance. A big flower. And not far from the big flower, there was a human with 5 blue halos around him. Is that blue circle also a soul ring? It feels like I have never seen it before. Maybe this is why the human smells so good. My eyes lingered between the human and the big flower, and then I decided to choose the human because he smelled better. But at this moment, I felt that my scales were caught by something. So I looked back in confusion. Then a strong force came, and I was pulled into the poison formation by something. Me. Before I could see clearly which idiot pulled me in, I felt my tail being pulled. Then I was dragged away. I got angry and twisted my body awkwardly to try to bite the implied human, but failed. Tisk, the disadvantage of having too many scales is that my body is too big, my flexibility is poor. When I was considering whether to lose weight, I suddenly felt dizzy. My head hurts so much. Oh, it turned out that the human with fire on his body pulled my tail and smashed me to the ground again and again. Hiss, hiss, hot, hot, this human actually roasted me with fire. My scales were roasted soft, and she pulled them off one by one. Are you a devil? Don't you know it hurts? Then I died. Ended my ordinary and tepid animal life. My name is the Crypt Demon Spider, a 10,000-year-old spider, living in the sunset forest. One day I smelled a fragrance that I couldn't stop, and then I quietly rushed to the source of the fragrance from underground. I saw that it was a human with a blue soul ring around him. He was very strange, so he must tasted delicious. But after witnessing how those humans brutally killed the perverted ghost tiger and the iron-headed scaled beast in the forest, I realized that this was a trap set by these despicable humans, waiting for us to fall into the trap. Humph, I am smart and won't be fooled. So I planned to wait and see outside, and then find an opportunity to catch that human and leave. But those hateful humans were so shameless that they actually planned to catch me and kill me directly like they caught the scaled beast. I tell you, don't even think about it. So I relied on my slippery shell to successfully escape, and then I didn't plan to catch that human. I ran away first. After all, there was a soul saint among those humans. I moved my 8 long legs and shuttled quickly through the forest. With the 8 times speed they brought me, I felt that the two-legged beasts could never catch up with me. Then I heard an owl cry. Looking up, the soul saint was flying towards me with a human. I was shocked and angry. These damn humans actually cheated and flew. I want to report them. Seeing that they were about to catch up, I had to show my coquettish positioning skills and my superb predictive ability, and used my innate soul skill spider web cage to temporarily trap them. But I knew that it would not last long. Because a diligent ordinary player like me could never beat those guys who used modifiers to cheat, so, even if I tried very hard to escape, I still couldn't avoid the fate of being caught. Alice, I already had a premonition of my next fate. It was nothing more than being killed by a human and becoming a soul ring. But it doesn't matter, I'm a 10,000-year-old soul beast. If you want to absorb my soul ring, you have to withstand my soul shock first. Then, purple light appeared in the eyes of that human, and I became a crypt idiot spider. Damn, it's amazing to cheat. Tang San, who just used up the purple extreme demon eye, well, sorry, what did you just say? Soul shock, I am like a 6,000-year-old human-faced spider. Goose, like a dove letting go. I have no feelings. I have no female spider friends. I have no money. But I am a fierce spider. I am also a wolf spider. I am really fierce. And super powerful. I am not afraid of the poison formation of the poison Douluo, because my own poison is also extremely deadly. So I quietly passed through the poison formation and slowly raised my 4-meter-long legs towards the human who smelled particularly good. Just one stab, he will die under my long legs, and then I will take him away smoothly. Very good, no one noticed me. Close, I will succeed soon. Just as my long, sharp, poisonous legs were about to sink into the body of the fragrant human, the human suddenly turned around. Tang Liu. I looked at his expressionless face, not knowing what was going on, and an inexplicable shyness and anger rushed into my head. So I increased the speed of my long legs falling, ready to kill him with a lightning-fast attack, and then drag him away. Now the attention of those humans is on the silly crypt spider. The opportunity is not to be missed, it will never come again. But, even though it was clearly about to die, the fragrant human was still laughing. Then my legs fell on a blue-black shield, making a harsh friction sound. Then I felt a strong force on my back. I knelt down. My head was stepped into the mud. Who is so lacking in public morality that he casually stepped on someone's back? At this moment, my back suddenly hurt, and I felt like 8 big, ugly things were inserted into my back. This feeling was just like every time I inserted my long legs into the body of my prey. But this time it was my turn to feel pain. So I quietly looked with the eyes on my stomach. Why does this human have my spider legs on his back? I also felt that my vitality and soul power were rapidly draining away. I was shocked. It was devour. Such a familiar skill. This human who stepped on my back not only pirated my spider legs, but also pirated my soul skills. Is there any justice in the world? Our pirates so rampant now? They dare to directly battle the genuine ones. In short, I died peacefully with an unwilling heart. When I opened my eyes again, I saw those friends who had the same experience as me gathered around me. I looked at them, silently. Ghost tiger that can no longer summon clones, ripe scaly beast, crypt, idiot, demon spider, squeak, damn, humans, you have such a dirty heart. This is our thrilling experience of obtaining spirit rings. This time Ma Hongjin stepped on the chair with a heroic look on his face. Tai Long and Jingling and Wang Yuan and Jiangzhu, applause, small theater, Tang Liu. It is impossible to write it according to the original work, I can only water it down to maintain the appearance of updating everyone, Go to hell. Tang Liu, gurgle, gradually drowning. Chapter 119 Preparing for the competition. Xiao Liu, now we only need your spirit ring. Which spirit beast are you going to choose? Liu Erlong said. Zhu Huqing, Ning Rongrong and Tang San all went to absorb spirit rings, and now the only one who needed spirit rings was Tang Liu. I think you can consider the pure python. Its cultivation is just about 20,000 years, and it should be able to provide you with a purification-type spirit skill. The master pointed to a white python with the same body outside the poison formation and said. Tang Liu couldn't help but look at the master, because his original idea was to add a purification-type spirit skill to his 4th spirit ring. So he nodded and said, okay, then the pure python? Anyway, he was just borrowing a ring from Xiao Funi, and this pure python was just used for cover. After confirming the choice, Liu Erlong threw out his flying god claw, and then accurately hit the pure python outside the poison formation, and then pulled it in. Tang Liu accurately marked the pure python with a Haolin mark when it landed, and after making it unconscious, he dragged it towards the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Master, Liu Erlong, Flanders, Zhao Wuji, and Dai Mu Bei, Oscar, Ma Hongjin, and Xiao Wu, who did not absorb the spirit ring, watched him walk away slowly. Since the human-faced demon spider chose Tang Liu as the target of attack, Xiao Wu was not attacked as in the original book, and therefore did not recognize Liu Erlong as her godmother. But it was not a big deal, so it did not have much impact. Tang Liu walked all the way to Douluo's cave, and did not choose to go to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire immediately, so as not to be seen by Tang San during the borrowing process. After teleporting the pure python away and removing the Hyaolin mark in its body, Tang Liu released Xiao Funi and prepared to start borrowing the ring. The same process, when a complete black spirit ring appeared in front of him, the borrowing of the ring was successful. And the spirit ring also came with a purification spirit skill he wanted, and the age was also the maximum age he could absorb at present, 29,000 years. After obtaining the spirit ring, Tang Liu took Xiao Funi to teleport to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, and then immediately sat cross-legged and began to absorb the spirit ring without stopping. Since all the herbs had been picked by Tang San, what grew now were some tender shoots that had not yet produced medicinal power, so Tang Liu was not afraid of Xiao Funi wasting them. Emperor Shuang and Emperor Yan, who lived in the spirit bones attached to the dragon wings, also came out and watched Tang Liu absorb the spirit ring curiously. After all, borrowing a ring was also a very novel thing for them. Yes, that's right, now it's time to count the words again. Host, Tang Liu, male, age 14 soul power, 52 martial soul 1, void spirit blue silver emperor soul ring 4, soul skill, void spirit breath, specify a void spirit blue silver emperor to be placed anywhere within a 200 meter, upgradable, range with you as the center, and then release void spirit breath with an effective range of 200 meters, upgradable, with a void spirit blue silver emperor as the center. Wherever the void spirit breath passes, it will purify all negative effects, and in the next 5, upgradable, seconds, no soul skills with attack effects can be released in the range, only effective for the enemy you identify. This effect is ineffective against opponents whose soul power far exceeds yours. Martial Soul 3, Haolan Spell Soul Ring 5, Soul Skill, Haolan, Invisible. You can use the soul skill of Haolan spell when you are not releasing Haolan spell. Although the effect of the soul skill will be reduced by 50%, the soul power consumption will also be reduced by 50%. Soul Bone Configuration, External Soul Bone Demon Eye Left Eye, Soul Skill Details Plus, External Soul Bone Ice and Fire Dragon King Wings, Soul Skill Details Plus, Current Physical Strength can withstand Soul Ring Age 31,000 years. Overall evaluation, insulting lousy host, not scolding you is already maintaining your last bit of dignity as a host, and you still want an overall evaluation. Tang Liu, it took Tang Liu half an hour to absorb the soul ring, and then he stayed in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire until Tang San finished absorbing the soul ring. Then the two brothers left the yin-yang eye of ice and fire together and joined the Shrek people. Zhu's Huking and Ning Rongrong had already completed the absorption of the soul ring, and now they were waiting for Tang San and Tang Liu to come back so that they could set off to return to the academy. Of course, Tang San and Tang Liu were also asked by the curious people about the effect of the new soul skills, so they had no choice but to demonstrate it, and then everyone was shocked again. Tang Liu, really, how can you be so easily shocked every day? Relax a little, these are just small scenes, okay, everyone, although what he said makes sense, why do I still want to beat him up? After a brief rest, the group accelerated towards the outside of the Sunset Forest, preparing to rush back to the academy as soon as possible to make final preparations. After all, the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition will soon begin. After returning to the academy, the master began to explain the rules of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition to the Shrek 7 Devils, the non-staff member Tang Liu, and the 4 members of the reserve team. After letting everyone simply run in for a while, the time for the competition came. Under the leadership of the 4 teachers of the academy, the students came to the competition venue of Xiandao City, and were forced to change into a very ugly uniform with a shit green color and reserved advertising space. Then they were sternly rejected by Tang Liu. And he also gave a reason that even Flender could not refuse. My dad asked me to wear my new clothes, do you dare not let me? Do you want to be hit by a hammer? Flanders, okay, so Tang Liu became a breath of fresh air among the Shrek students who were all in shit green, and he was the kind that looked extremely good. Tang Liu was calmly surrounded by the shit green, his expression was elegant and dignified, and he was not moved at all even when facing the jealous eyes of his friends. Tang Liu, I want to be beautiful alone, and you scum can only serve as a foil. Everyone, sour as lemons, middle finger. So the citizens of Xiandao City unexpectedly had a unified opinion about this unfamiliar Shrek Academy. Look at that team over there dressed in shit green. Which academy is that? I feel like I've never seen that before. Oh, that's the Blue Bully Academy, which has been renamed Shrek Academy, so it's the Shit Lake Academy. No wonder it's dressed in shit green. You know which Shrek Academy I'm talking about, right? Yes, it's that shit, but to be honest, the student in the blue and black suit in the Shrek Academy team is quite good looking, yeah, especially with a backdrop of a bunch of shit around him. What you said makes a lot of sense. I guess this academy is not particularly strong. The strongest one is probably that good-looking student. Otherwise, why is he the only one in the entire academy who dresses like he's coming to compete? Chapter 120 Tang Liu, have you learned anything? I agree. Maybe their school's funds can only provide a good uniform for one student, and the other students can only find a set of clothes to make do. Well, so they are here for a day trip. I think that's it. Then let's cheer for this academy for the sake of that student's face. Yeah, it's not impossible. Then it's settled. Okay, similar conversations are happening in many places, so Shrek Academy has unexpectedly gained a large number of temporary fans by relying on Tang Liu's face without knowing it. And neither Tang Liu nor other students know anything about this. In fact, except Tang Liu, other students wanted to find a hole to hide in the ground amid the audience's discussions. Xiao Saner, I think we should change this set of clothes later. Dai Bei gritted his teeth and said to Tang San beside him. I agree, this set of clothes is indeed not suitable. Even Tang San, whose real age is already in his 40s, blushed a little in these discussions. Leave the clothes to me, I'll take care of them. Ning Rongrong smiled, but her tone sounded dangerous and gnashing. Then I'll leave it to you, Rongrong. Xiao Wu was angry, her face flushed. No matter how indignant everyone was now, they still had to save face, so the Shrek 7 Devils silently took out the masks they had worn when they participated in the soul fighting competition in Soto City, ready to struggle again. But their 3 substitutes didn't have masks, so they had to cover their faces with their hands, feeling very embarrassed. As for Tang Liu, he held his head high and chest out, not embarrassed at all, and his expression was still calm, and he was beautiful alone. However, if someone looked closely, they would find that his eyes were slightly shining at this time. His eyes were also a little empty, as if his attention was already focused on something else. After a lot of effort, the Shrek students finally came to the rest area prepared by the organizer for each participating college. After silently taking off their masks, they began to humiliate Flanders with condemning eyes. Flanders, he coughed awkwardly, and then said, the organizers of the competition will come to do the final registration later. After the personnel are confirmed, they can no longer be changed. After the registration is completed, all colleges will go to the competition venue to draw lots for the preliminary round. As the face of our college, you must perform well and don't lose face for our college. You know, you are the team that wants to win the championship. He had just finished speaking, and when the students hadn't reacted, an extremely discordant voice came over. Champion? Toads also want to win the championship. Everyone in Shrek cast their eyes in the direction of the voice, and then saw a school uniform that made them look familiar. Is that what, Kanghu College? It seems to be such a name, right? Mo Hongjin whispered first. As the big brother, Dai Bei nodded. Yes, it's the college that is essentially a pig. There is also a turtle, don't forget it. Oscar immediately echoed. A turtle leading a group of pigs? Ho ha, what a vivid picture. Xiao Wu laughed out loud. Tang San, who was standing by, could not help but cast a helpless and doting glance at her, then reached out and rubbed her head, which earned Xiao Wu a red face and an angry glare. The others moved away spontaneously, looking at the two people's blatant behavior of feeding the dog with disdain. The students of Kanghu Academy who were ignored the whole time, the young man in his 20s who spoke earlier became embarrassed and angry, and was about to curse. Gua, this sound was incredible, and almost all the spirit masters in the rest area heard it, and then they all cast surprised eyes at the young man. The young man's expression also became a little unbelievable, and he spoke again in disbelief. Hengchi, well, this time the sound is more familiar. It's Zhuzu, dear friends. All the spirit masters, stare. What followed was a laugh that did not intend to save face for the students of Kanghu Academy. The young man looked horrified, watching his academy members making strange noises, but he just couldn't say a complete sentence. Meow meow meow, what are you doing? So many people are watching. Woof woof woof, stop it, don't embarrass the academy. Chirp chirp chirp, what kind of bird language are you speaking? Yamidi, why are you making that kind of noise? Greek letter omega? Just when the scene was in chaos, Tang Liu, who was at the innermost of the rest area where the Shrek Academy students were, put down his left hand on his left eye, and then gently patted Tai Long on the shoulder with his right hand. See, sometimes a little trick is more useful and effective than rushing out to hit someone directly, he spoke in a low voice, with a slight smile in his tone. Tai Long looked at the ominous green light in the left eye of his second young master, which seemed to have not yet faded, and couldn't help shuddering. He did want to rush out just now, but when Tang Liu's hand fell on him, he couldn't move. Completely. His breathing and heartbeat seemed to have completely stopped at that moment. Fortunately, when Tang Liu's hand left, the feeling of life and death being completely controlled by others disappeared, and Tai Long also breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Tang Liu looked at the 60-year-old man in Kanghu College. Coincidentally, the old man was also looking at him. Tang Liu did not avoid his gaze, but smiled at him, and then with his eyes slightly narrowed, his sight slowly flowed from the old man's head and torso. Then the arc of his lips became higher. On the other side, the old man, that is, Shinian. When the student of their Kanghu College began to behave abnormally, he locked onto Tang Liu. His martial soul is a spiritual system, and it is also a nightmare martial soul. Naturally, he is not unfamiliar with this situation, and he even uses it frequently. It's nothing more than a trick to modify cognition with illusions. See you all in the college entrance examination, and then see you after the college entrance examination. Chapter 121. Shinian, furious. He looked at the attractive boy who used the illusion-like soul skills, and squinted his eyes to look at him inconspicuously. Then, he suddenly felt a great sense of crisis. It was as if he was being stared at by some powerful soul beast. The malicious eyes with hidden greed made his back cold. Even if the other person's face looked beautiful and harmless, even if he was still wearing a harmless smile. But Shinian just felt that he was very dangerous. But, how is this possible? Just a little kid in his teens. How is it possible? He is a soul saint. A soul saint with 7 soul rings. A soul saint who can use the martial soul of true body. Why, on what basis, would he be afraid of a child now? Shinian's body trembled slightly. But soon, he took a deep breath and calmed down. He walked forward a few steps, stretched out his hand and gently pressed the shoulder of the student who was now crying. Help me, why can't I speak normally? I'm fine. Shinian didn't give him the chance to rejoice after surviving the catastrophe. He glanced at him coldly and said calmly, get out of here. You have lost the face of the academy. The young man's expression froze, and he responded timidly, and walked to the back of the team tremblingly. However, he still did not forget to cast a resentful look at the people of Shrek Academy. After dealing with his students, Shinian looked at the Shrek students again, his eyes pointed directly at Tang Liu behind him. The Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition strictly prohibits Soul Masters from fighting privately. Now you are attacking our Kanghu Academy students. Are you ignoring the rules of the competition? After Shinian's big hat was put down, the rest area suddenly became much quieter. The people who were still laughing at Kanghu Academy stopped now and turned to look in the direction of Shrek Academy, curious about what they would do next. Tang Liu said good trick in his heart, and at the same time, he spoke up to stop Flanders who was about to say something, and said with a smile, Senior, you are too polite. Your students are just learning the calls of various animals. What does it have to do with our Shrek Academy? If you think that this matter must be related to me, please produce evidence first. Otherwise, if you indiscriminately accuse our Shrek Academy of a false crime, I have the power to sue you directly to the organizer. The competition has clear regulations. If any academy maliciously slanders, spreads rumors, or takes any form of means to attack a certain academy, causing the academy to lose its qualification to participate in the competition, it will be deprived of the right to participate. I hope you will think twice. Isn't it just moving the organizing committee of the competition? He can do it too. Shinian's face became even more gloomy after hearing Tang Liu's words. He continued, my name is Shinian, and my martial soul is Kanmen. My martial soul allows me to clearly sense whether there are mental fluctuations around me. And just now, my martial soul pointed directly at you. I wonder how you can explain this. The Soul Masters present once again cast their eyes on Shrek Academy, and the eyes of the people in Tang Hao Academy were full of gloating. Senior, forgive me for being frank, but your one-sided words alone are really unconvincing. Objectively speaking, you said that your martial soul made you feel mental fluctuations. So you think that the incident just now has something to do with me. However, this is just your own statement. Who knows if you really felt that there had been mental fluctuations here before? Who knows if you deliberately made up this set of words and used it to frame me in our Shrek Academy? Tang Liu's expression was neither humble nor arrogant, and he always spoke with a smile that made people's eyes shine. Shi Nian felt inexplicably filled with anger, and he shouted, "Just because I am Shi Nian, isn't that enough?" As soon as he said this, almost everyone looked at him at the same time. The huge venue suddenly became silent. Shi Nian gradually became a little embarrassed in this quiet environment. Tang Liu's smile widened, and he said, "It is true that the senior's soul saint cultivation is still not weak, and he can even establish a sect, but..." The smile on his face instantly turned into a sneer. "So what?" "Yes, so what?" Such a sentence popped up in the minds of everyone present. "As long as you don't have sufficient evidence to prove that I have anything to do with this matter, I have sufficient reason to believe that you are deliberately slandering me in Shrek Academy for all your purposeful, malicious actions, or inflammatory, slanderous and offensive remarks towards me in Shrek Academy, and using low-level tricks to try to disqualify Shrek Academy from the competition, and to take advantage of this to sue your Tang Hao Academy to the competition organizing committee. If you still have any objections, Senior Shi Nian, we can go to the organizing committee now and let the committee members decide." "What do you think, Hao? What else can he do?" Shi Nian angrily threw his sleeves and turned away. Seeing this, the students of Tang Hao Academy immediately followed him, lowered their heads under the gazes of many soul masters, and seemed to want to bury their heads directly in their chests, and left like a stray dog. After watching the people from Tang Hao Academy leave, the soul masters present immediately talked about it, and the noisy atmosphere returned to the previous one. In the rest area of Shrek Academy, Oscar approached Tang Liu in a mean way the moment everyone from Tang Hao Academy turned around. "Awesome, Xia Liu, why didn't I see you were so talkative before?" He gently bumped Tang Liu with his shoulder and said. "No, it's just that you don't have a pair of eyes that are good at discovering, so you repeatedly ignore my shining points." Tang Liu grinned. Although his face was good-looking, his words made people want to hide him. "Oscar, do you know that you have killed the conversation?" Tang Liu laughed even more happily. "I am actually a very talkative person." "Really, you think I have killed the conversation? That's just because I don't want to chat with you, Oscar." The others couldn't help but laugh at Oscar. Flanders spoke up to stop them at this time. "Okay, kids, the little episode is over. Let's get ready first. What if you have to play in a game later? Also, Xia Liu, you have to be careful in the future. That old guy Shi Nian is famous for his vengeance, and his martial spirit is also very special and difficult to deal with. You humiliated him in front of so many people today, he will definitely find a chance to retaliate. College entrance examination tomorrow, come on." Chapter 122 Xia Wu, sour as a lemon. Tang Liu answered him, "Don't worry, Dean, I'll be fine." In fact, Flanders was not very worried, because when it comes to the ability to save life, I'm afraid even a titled Douluo may not be stronger than Tang Liu. That distance ignoring hail and teleportation is too unsolvable. So he just nodded and didn't say much. Tang Liu looked at the direction where Shi Nian left, the corners of his lips curled up slightly, and muttered to himself, "I was afraid you wouldn't come." The people of Shrek didn't wait long in the rest area before the staff came to register. After that, all the participating colleges walked towards the competition venue under the guidance of the staff to prepare for the opening ceremony. This opening ceremony was no different from Tang Liu's previous world. They all spoke, and then someone else continued to speak, and kept repeating until the more important people finished speaking, and then the host announced the start. For the participating colleges and those ordinary people, fighting is the highlight of this all-continental high-level Soul Master Elite competition. After the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect Master Ning Fengzi finished speaking, the host began to announce today's competition list. When everyone in Shrek heard that their opponent was actually the second team of Shyandao Royal Academy, their eyes lit up. This is a coincidence," Ma Hongjin smiled evilly. "It's just right, we can avenge what happened that day at Shyandao Royal Soul Master Academy." Oscar rubbed his hands and said with ill intentions. Tang Liu looked at the two of them with disdain. "You are all people who can't play, what revenge is there?" It's too early for you to get your turn, Ma Hongjin. Oscar, it's okay. Anyway, the third brother and the others playing are also helping us to revenge. Oscar is now open-minded. I'll be criticized if I'm criticized. As long as I don't care, Tang Liu's sharp words can't hurt me at all. Oscar and Ma Hongjin thought with grief and indignation. Tang San smiled and comforted them. Don't worry, we will teach them a lesson for you. Besides, if we need you to fight against the Xiandao team too, then we are not worthy of the name of Shrek Seven Devils. Tang Liu corrected him. It's the Shrek Monster team. Tang San's face was full of doting. Yes, the Shrek Monster team. Everyone, huh? Xiao Wu, I feel like I just ate a super big lemon. When Tang San just finished arranging the players and tactics, the host of the game began to announce the entry of the two teams. The two teams in this game are naturally Shrek Academy and Xiandao Royal Academy Team 2. After everyone encouraged each other, they separated. Several players headed by Daimyo Bei and Tang San played the game, and the rest stayed in the viewing area. The result was naturally as expected. After the referee announced the start of the game, 1 minute, no more, no less, Shrek defeated Xiandao Royal Team 2. In this process, Tang San's 10,000-year fourth spirit ring undoubtedly caused a great shock. As for those people who were attracted by Tang Liu's looks, a large part of them have now completely become his fans. After the first game, the Shrek students left the competition venue in high spirits, and when they were heading to the rest area, they met Ning Fengzi, who was also about to leave. Just like the original novel, Ning Rongrong first introduced everyone to Ning Fengzi, and when he introduced Tang Liu, Ning Fengzi spoke up. My friend, we only met briefly last time. I wonder if you can give me a chance this time so that we can have a good chat. Ning Fengzi looked at the boy in front of him, who was not outstanding in height but was completely covered by his looks, and said, Of course, I'm very happy to do so. Tang Liu smiled back, and at the same time, he began to look forward to meeting someone in a while. After a brief acquaintance with the students, Ning Fengzi said goodbye, and then left with Tang San and Tang Liu. Xiao San, Xiao Liu, I'm going to take you to see someone now. Since I learned about your identities at Shrek Academy last time, I've been asking around about why your father suddenly retired from the Spirit Master world. The person I'm going to take you to see now knows something. Although it's not comprehensive, it's finally some information. Finally, Ning Fengzi brought the two to an antique tea house. After hearing that what Ning Fengzi was going to tell them this time was related to Tang Hao, Tang San, who was already a little excited, now felt a little uneasy. Tang Liu had been acting very Buddhist. After all, you can't expect a person who already knew the truth to be excited when listening to a story he had heard before, not to mention that the storyteller was not him. However, Tang Liu was not completely without excitement. After all, the person he was going to meet next was that person. Ning Fengzi led them to the innermost private room on the second floor of the tea house, pushed the door open, and then Tang San and Tang Liu saw the 27 or 28-year-old young man in the box. Uncle Ning, you are here. The young man, who was dressed in ordinary clothes but had a superior appearance, bowed respectfully to Ning Fengzi. Ning Fengzi smiled and said, King, I have told you many times that you don't have to do this. The young man also smiled and said, That won't do. You are my elder and my teacher. You must be polite no matter what. Otherwise, if my father knew, I'm afraid he would break my legs. Tang Liu's eyes narrowed slightly when he entered the door, and then he began to look at the young man inconspicuously. Not long after, a trace of amazement and admiration appeared on his face. However, after hearing what the young man said just now, he couldn't help but purse his lips and smiled. It might not be easy for your father to do this. After all, he has been dead for a long time. At this time, the young man's eyes also fell on Tang San and Tang Liu behind Ning Fengzi, and smiled and said, These two should be the descendants of the Haoshan sect that Uncle Ning highly respects. Tang San immediately replied, I don't deserve it. I am Tang San. This is my younger brother Tang Liu. Tang Liu nodded slightly to the young man, that is, Zuking, as a greeting. Then Ning Fengzi also began to introduce Zuking to the two brothers. Xiao San, Xiao Liu, let me introduce you. This is the current crown prince of the Xiandao Empire, His Royal Highness Zuking. Tang San finally understood why he felt familiar when he saw this young man before. He said, So it's His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Tang San is polite. Tang Liu was thinking in his heart, so am I exposing my identity or not? Prepare to enter the examination room. Chinese, come on, math in the afternoon. I wish you a lot of ideas in Chinese today, and agile thinking in math, and you can get by with the right answers. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Countdown to the Fall. But he still had to do enough superficial work, so he said to Zhu King, "Meet His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Zhu King said, "If Uncle Ning hadn't told me, I would have found it hard to believe that you are 14 years old now. Especially Brother Tang Liu, you look less than 12 years old." Tang Liu nodded to him with a smile, as if he was complimenting him instead of euphemistically talking about his height. "When I was 14, I was just an ignorant boy," Zhu King sighed, and then said, "It's nice to meet you. If you don't mind, just call me Brother Zhu. As for the word Crown Prince, let's not mention it." Ning Fengzi took over and said, "Okay, let's sit down and talk first. Zia Liu, the green tea here is really good, you should try it." After sitting down, Zhu King personally poured tea for the few people. The slightly overflowing tea fragrance wafted into the nose, making people feel refreshed. Although it was good tea, Tang San was not in the mood to taste it. After taking a sip, he said, "Brother Zhu, I heard Uncle Ning say that you knew something about my father's retreat." Zhu King nodded and said, "Actually, I don't know everything. I just heard the court priest mention it. Your father has always been my idol, so I asked more about it. According to the information I know, your father chose to withdraw from the Spirit Master world and disappeared, which seems to be related to the Spirit Hall." Tang San said anxiously, "Brother Zhu, please tell me in detail." Tang Liu, who was sitting next to him, patted the back of his hand on the armrest of the chair soothingly, and then Tang San held it back. Tang Liu, he couldn't help but cast a loving glance at Tang San like an old father. It's been hard for him, the brother, these years. So just catch it, if it can make Tang San feel comforted and appeased, he won't mind. Fortunately, Zhu King did not mean to keep us in suspense, and said, "The news I got was this. About 15 years ago, according to the time calculation, you should not have been born at that time. The Spirit Hall seemed to be looking for something. That thing was extremely important to the entire Spirit Hall. Therefore, the Spirit Hall sent a strong lineup to search everywhere. Not only did the 4 platinum bishops participate in it, but even the Pope at that time and the Pope's 2 personal guards were also dispatched. I don't know what they are looking for specifically, and the person who gave me the news. But from the fact that the top leaders of the Spirit Hall came out in full force, it must be an extremely important thing. And this thing seems to be in your father's hands. At that time, your father was not on the Clear Sky sect, and he should have been traveling around the continent with your mother. It must have been very difficult for him to encounter this incident suddenly. No one knows the specific details of his negotiations with the Spirit Hall. I just heard that your father announced his departure from the Clear Sky sect not long after. At that time, your father was still a soul Douluo and had not reached the level of a title Douluo. Not long after, news came out that your father had a duel with someone from the Spirit Hall and was injured. And it seems that they did not succeed in obtaining the object. It was during that battle that news came out that your father had become a title Douluo. The Spirit Hall itself also acknowledged this fact. Which is why your father became the youngest title Douluo today." Hearing this, Tang San couldn't help but ask, "What about my mother?" Zhu King shook his head and said, "My news didn't include anything about your mother. It was just that less than a month after the battle, the Spirit Hall suddenly announced that the Pope had passed away. A new Pope took over the throne. Therefore, the person who gave me the news judged that the former Pope was probably seriously injured in the battle with your father. That's why he passed away not long after. And your father chose to live in seclusion for this reason. Although he had left the Haoshan sect, he was still the most important member of the Haoshan sect's direct disciples. His retirement must have been to avoid bringing trouble to the sect. After all, the Spirit Hall was so powerful that it could even stand on equal footing with the 2 empires. It was not something that a sect could fight against, not even the world's largest sect. It was also from that time that the Haoshan sect gradually disappeared from people's sight and rarely moved around in the Spirit Master world. Ning Fengzi said, "If this is true, then the most important thing is what the Spirit Hall is fighting for, and the true situation of the battle. These are probably only known by the parties involved at the time. However, It is certain that your father's retirement must have a close relationship with that battle. Zhu King nodded slightly and continued, that's all I know. I'm really sorry. Although I have sent people to investigate this matter, more than 10 years have passed, and I'm afraid it will be difficult to get any results. Tang San shook his head and said, thank you, Brother Zhu. Knowing this is very useful to me, Zhu King smiled slightly, you're welcome. It's just a small favor. Then the three of them chatted about some other things, and then Tang San said goodbye. Ning Fengzi and Zhu King did not try to keep him, so Tang San took Tang Liu away. But before leaving, Zhu King gave Tang San a token, saying that if he had any problems in the future, he could take this token to the palace to find him. After the two brothers left, Ning Fengzi asked Zhu King beside him, King, what do you think? Zhu King sighed slightly and said, Uncle Ning, you are right. This child does not look like a teenager, his words and deeds are very steady, and he can even hide his thoughts very well. I can only say that he is worthy of being a disciple of the Haotian sect. Ning Fengzi smiled and said, this child's excellence is not given by the Haotian sect, but entirely relies on his own efforts. What's more, his martial soul is only blue-silver grass. But who else on this continent can cultivate a blue-silver grass, a recognized useless martial soul? To the fourth ring at the age of 14, and the fourth soul ring is at the 10,000-year level. Even I can't see his future clearly. However, compared to Tang San, I want to hear your opinion on Tang Liu. Tang Liu, Zhu King's expression became a little solemn, he lowered his eyes, as if in deep thought, based on the contact just now, I'm not too sure. It's just that he always gives me a very unreal feeling. You mean, he's very unpredictable, right? Ning Fengzi asked with interest. No, Zhu King quickly shook his head and denied, although all his reactions just now were normal, they were all pretended, which is not difficult to find. But, what makes me curious is that under the disguise he showed, that kind of, it seems to be, like watching a play, right? Ning Fengzi gave the answer for him. Zhu King looked at him in astonishment, and then said, yes, that's right. He gave me the feeling that he was watching a play, and it was a play he had already watched once. But, this is impossible, right? Ning Fengzi looked at him meaningfully. Zhu King nodded. Yes, how could this be possible? Yes, this is impossible. Ning Fengzi retracted his gaze from Zhu King, raised his hand to drink a sip of the tea in the cup, and then said, so I'm very curious. Zhu King waited for his next words. Why does he seem to be indifferent to everything, yet seems to care about everything? Why does he seem to know everything, yet seems to know nothing? The temperament exuded by Tang Liu was too discordant for them. He was like a contradiction. It was confusing and unpredictable. Was he just a character, or was he just mentally ill? Or was he originally this kind of incomprehensible contradiction? Why did he, as a person, make others feel inexplicably illusory, and even panic and fear for no reason? Most importantly, was he harmful to them? There were too many mysteries about him. The unknown made him look dangerous, but also full of some kind of irresistible attraction. The inexplicable desire that came from the depths of the heart, even from the soul, was creepy. But in the horror, it was the tension and excitement that quietly grew. The feeling of shortness of breath and dilated pupils seemed to be magnified. No one could tell him the answer. Only the future could. It was time to enter the examination room again. Come on for the comprehensive science exam, come on for English in the afternoon, and come on for the English oral exam tomorrow. I hope you have enough time today to avoid making mistakes in comprehensive science, and be steady in English, and achieve outstanding results. Chapter 124, Zhu King's Infinite Rewind. Ning Fengzi and Zhu King said goodbye in the tea house. After Zhu King watched Ning Fengzi go away, he waved to a waiter in the tea house. The waiter came up quickly and stood beside Zhu King. Your Highness, what do you want? He said respectfully. Send someone to check Tang Liu. I want all his information. Quickly, Zhu King said lightly. Yes, the waiter responded and left. Zhu King stood there for a few seconds, then stopped a carriage and said to the driver, go to the palace. Okay, sir, please sit down. The driver, who was wearing a big scarf and a big felt hat that covered most of his face, leaving only a pair of eyes outside, said in a muffled voice. After Zhu King sat in the carriage, he drove the horse pulling the carriage slowly forward. Zhu King closed his eyes in the carriage to rest, and then for some reason, he was suddenly attacked by a feeling of drowsiness, and then fell asleep. After an unknown amount of time, he suddenly woke up from his deep sleep. He opened the curtain of the carriage and looked outside. It was still a bustling street scene. "Master, haven't we arrived yet?" Zhu King looked out the window and spoke to the driver. The driver's muffled voice followed, "Sir, we just set out not long ago. How could we reach the palace so soon?" "Not long?" Zhu King frowned, looked at the scene outside, and then was shocked. Over the years, he couldn't be more familiar with Xiandao City. He remembered what every street in Xiandao City looked like and what shops there were. But in his memory, there was definitely no road to the palace like this one. Zhu King's eyes sank slightly. Although he was secretly alert in his heart, he remained calm on his face, intending to see what was going on now. And what exactly did the driver outside want to do? But the moment this thought arose in his mind, he suddenly realized that the bustling surroundings had become silent in an instant. His heart trembled, and he immediately stood up and stepped forward. While lifting the curtain of the carriage, he quietly released his martial spirit. A pair of white wings spread out behind him, and at the same time, 6 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black, rose behind him. The curtain was lifted, and the driver was still sitting in front, driving the horse attentively. As if he heard the movement, the driver turned his head and saw Zhu King, who just slightly stuck his head out. So he smiled and said, "Sir, don't worry, it will take a while to get to the palace." Zhu King's eyes silently scanned the empty streets around him, and then stopped at the driver. "Who are you?" Zhu King asked after looking at the driver for a moment. The driver obviously didn't expect Zhu King to suddenly ask him such a question, and was stunned. But Zhu King changed the question before he could speak. "Who sent you?" The driver said in surprise. "Sir, what are you talking about? I am just an ordinary rickshaw driver." Zhu King sneered, raised his hand and clenched it, and a long sword with golden light condensed in his hand, and then he decisively stabbed the driver. What surprised and puzzled him was that the driver was pierced through the heart by his sword and died. It seemed that he was indeed an ordinary person. Zhu King looked at the empty streets around him and curled his lips. Even if he was really just an ordinary person, he must have a problem in such a weird environment. The longsword in his hand turned into a stream of light and dissipated, and then he walked out of the carriage and jumped off the carriage. There was a feeling of being on the ground under his feet. He only felt a flash in front of his eyes, and then he found that he was sitting in the familiar carriage again. He frowned and opened the window again. The empty streets and the silent environment. Exactly the same as before. Zhu King stood up immediately, and his martial spirit was released. With a swing of his sword, he directly cut off the curtain of the carriage and strode out. The driver turned around, looked at him in surprise as he walked out, and then smiled. "Sir, don't worry, we will arrive at a palace in a while." But Zhu King directly put the long sword on his neck. "What's going on? Does it have anything to do with you?" The driver was surprised. "Sir, what are you talking about? I'm just an ordinary rickshaw driver." Zhu King beheaded the driver without saying a word. "Inexplicable," he said secretly, watching the driver's body fall, and then jumped off the carriage with his sword. Once again, he sat in the carriage. Zhu King frowned fiercely, and without thinking, he directly swung his sword to cut open the roof of the carriage, and then jumped out of the hole in the roof. He sat in the carriage again. Even though he had great patience, he couldn't help feeling a little annoyed. So, as soon as he leaves the carriage, he will be stuffed back in, right? So he stood up again, picked up the sword and walked out of the carriage, with the tip of the sword pointing to the driver's forehead. Zhu King said coldly, "Now, I say, you do it, turn the carriage around." The driver laughed. "Don't be anxious, sir, we will arrive at a palace in a while." Zhu King, he stabbed the tip of the sword slightly forward, and the driver's forehead immediately began to bleed. "Now, turn the carriage around." The driver was surprised. "What are you talking about, sir? I'm just an ordinary rickshaw driver." Zhu King, he mercilessly stabbed the long sword into the driver's forehead, killing the driver again. Then, he jumped lightly and sat on the horse in front, pulling the reins, trying to turn it around. He sat in the carriage again. Zhu King, very good. The longsword in his hand burst out with a brilliant light, and then directly crushed the entire carriage to pieces. He sat in the carriage again. He sat there, speechless for a long time. Then he walked out of the carriage and looked at the driver. "Let's make a deal. As long as you don't put me back in the carriage, I won't kill you. How about that?" The driver smiled. "Don't worry, sir. We'll be in the palace for a while." Zhu King, Cyrillic lettered X. He directly cut the driver in half with a sword, and then destroyed the carriage. As expected, He was still sitting in the carriage. Zuking, just when he was about to explode and destroy the carriage, he felt the carriage begin to slow down, and then the coachman's voice rang out, "Sir, we have arrived at the palace." Before the carriage had stopped and the coachman hadn't finished speaking, Zuking rushed out quickly. Then, he returned to the carriage. The coachman's voice rang out, "Sir, we have arrived at the palace." Zuking, very good, he can't get off the carriage unless it stops, right? So he waited until the carriage completely stopped before rushing out of the carriage. "Hey, sir. You haven't paid yet." Zuking, "Giving you shit money, not giving you a sword is my greatest tolerance." Then he returned to the carriage. Zuking, as soon as the carriage stopped, he rushed to the coachman, resisting the urge to stab the coachman to death with a sword, and asked, "How much?" The coachman smiled, "1 silver soul coin, sir." After paying the money, Zuking hurriedly walked in the direction where the carriage came from. Just after taking the 10th step, his eyes blurred and the coachman appeared in front of him again. The coachman smiled, "1 silver soul coin, sir." Zuking felt that the only pair of smiling eyes on the other party were full of malice, and they were all directed at him. So he couldn't help it and KO'd the coachman with the sword again. This time he used a waistcut. Zuking sat in the carriage again. "Nima. Give me some time, I'll save the draft. In addition, I secretly looked at the answers and felt that I was doomed in the college entrance examination." Crying. Chapter 125 Zuking, this is an illusion, so it must be fake. Zuking suppressed himself and waited until the carriage stopped before getting off. He did not forget to pay the driver, and at the same time, he did not walk outside the palace gate. Finally, he was not forced into the carriage again. The driver was still conscientious and waved to Zuking, who walked into the palace. "Sir, please take your time." Zuking almost couldn't help it again and planned to turn around and stab the driver with a sword. He exhaled deeply. Don't be angry, don't be angry. Who would I be angry to death? He walked deeper into the palace along the stone brick road in the palace, and walked all the way to the hall where the court was usually held. But just like the streets outside, there was still no one here. The palace guards who were usually spread throughout the palace were also gone. It seemed that he was the only one left in this world. No, there was also that hateful driver. Zuking thought silently. He also realized that he might be in some kind of illusion now, and he had tried all the methods that could be tried, but none of them could help him get out of the illusion. So now he had to let it go and see what the person who pulled him into the illusion wanted to do. There was no one in the main hall, so he walked towards the side hall, and then went to the emperor's bedroom. This time he saw someone. A Xiandao emperor lying on the bed, looking critically ill. And next to the Xiandao emperor, there was a person he was very familiar with. Poison Douluo. Douluo frowned slightly, watching the Xiandao emperor seem to be thinking about something, and then his dark green nails gently pierced into the skin of the Xiandao emperor. Zuking watched from the side and was shocked. Could it be that this Poison Douluo wanted to assassinate the Xiandao emperor? Everyone knew that the green phosphorus snake venom of Poison Douluo was extremely poisonous. Now he gave the critically ill Xiandao emperor this, because he couldn't stand the look of the Xiandao emperor and wanted to give him a quick death? But what surprised Zuking was that after Douluo gave the Xiandao emperor this, the Xiandao emperor not only did not die, but his face looked even rosier than before. Zuking, could it be that their previous understanding was wrong, and Douluo's poison was actually a tonic? How is this possible? Of course it's impossible. This is just an illusion. Everything he sees now is just what the person who created the illusion wants him to see. Moreover, he knows the physical condition of Emperor Xiandao very well. He will have no problem living for another few decades. How could he end up like this dying? So he waited quietly and watched everything around him. Douluo didn't seem to be able to detect his existence, so he could walk around in the illusion without worry, or even walk directly in front of Douluo or Emperor Xiandao and observe them carefully. Then, after an unknown amount of time, Zuking heard a noise behind him. Turning around, he saw two people walking in. One was a young man in his 20s with blue hair and blue eyes, and the other was a middle-aged man. At the same time, Zuking also found that it was dark outside without knowing when. Douluo also turned around at this time, looking at the two people coming, and was obviously relieved. He said, "Little monster, you are finally here." The blue-haired young man nodded slightly. "Old monster, how is the emperor?" Douluo shook his head. The situation is not optimistic. He was poisoned by a compound poison, and I can't directly detoxify him, so I have to use poison to fight poison, using my own green scale snake king poison to contain the compound toxin in his body. But this is an indicator-only method after all, and it will overdraw his life. Judging from his current situation, I can only contain the poison for him once more." The blue-haired young man nodded, then looked at the middle-aged man beside him. "Elder Yang, please help me." The middle-aged man nodded, walked forward, took a silver needle and pierced the skin of the Xiandao emperor, took some blood, and sprinkled some medicine powder on it. Then, the bright red blood on the silver needle turned into 7 colors. The middle-aged man frowned and said, "A compound poison of 7 toxins," the blue-haired young man said. "Can it be cured, Elder Yang?" The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, nodded, and then said, "But not here." He looked up and turned back to look at the door of the palace. Zhu King followed his gaze and looked over, and then the expression on his face became surprised. Because the one who came in from the gate was himself. In addition to him, there were 2 other people, and they were people he knew. 2 of the titled Douluo worshippers of the Spirit Hall, the Thorny Porpoise and the Snake Spear. "Brother Tang San, why didn't you say hello to me before you came to the palace this time? That way, I can send someone to entertain you." Zhu King smiled as he came in. The main person standing aside was confused and looked at the blue-haired young man. "He is Tang San? What's going on? Why has he changed so much?" And then he reacted. "This is just an illusion, and anything you see here may not be true." The blue-haired young man, Tang San, looked at Zhu King in the illusion and said with a smile, "I came here only for a small matter, so I won't bother your highness the crown prince." Zhu King smiled and waved his hand. "Hey, why are you so distant? Didn't I tell you to just call me Brother Zhu?" Tang San smiled and said nothing. Zhu King didn't seem to expect Tang San to reply to him at this time, so he continued, "However, I don't know why Brother Tang San came to my father's bedroom. You know, my father's health is getting worse and worse, and I'm worried that he will pass away at any time." The real Zhu King sneered on the side. "It is impossible for me to say such a stupid thing." Tang San smiled and said, "We are here because of the emperor's illness. Perhaps we can cure his majesty's illness." Zhu King said, "Really? So you invited his majesty Douluo? But how come I heard that this poison Douluo is best at using poison to kill people invisibly? Brother Tang San, you let a titled Douluo who is good at poison come to treat my father, which makes me have to doubt your intentions." Although he said words that were extremely unfavorable to Tang San, Zhu King still kept a smile on his face, and even his tone did not have much meaning of forcing, but rather a little regretful. "I think it's you who has ulterior motives, your highness," Douluo said with a hint of sarcasm. "It's true that I'm good at using poison to kill people. It's also because I'm good at poison that I recognize the poison that your majesty was poisoned with. It's a kind of poison commonly used by the Spirit Hall. What's more, I also recognize the 2 people standing next to your highness, and they are all titled Douluo in the Spirit Hall. Now that your highness is standing with the people of the Spirit Hall, what exactly is your intention? I don't think I need to say it clearly." Zhu King didn't have any extra expression, but just said with regret, "In this case, then I can't keep you. The 2 of you, His Majesty the Poison Douluo and its senior, I'll leave it to you." The last sentence was obviously said to the 2 titled Douluos beside him, Thorny Porpoise and Snake Spear. Thorny Porpoise Douluo and Snake Spear Douluo stood up after hearing this. After releasing their spirits, they stood there and looked at Douluo and Yang Wudi quietly. Douluo and Yang Wudi also released their spirits at the first moment, but they were obviously a little weaker than Zhu King, because Yang Wudi was still an 8-ringed soul Douluo. But neither the Zhu King in the illusion nor the real Zhu King expected that Yang Wudi's attack would be so sharp. Even against a titled Douluo, he would not be at all inferior. Who is this soul Douluo? His spirit seems to be a gun. Could it be Yang Wudi of the Po Yu clan? Zhu King, who was watching quietly at the side, murmured secretly. But then, something even more surprising happened, because of the spirit rings released by Tang San. 2 yellow, 1 purple, 2 black, and 1 red. Soul Emperor, and a Soul Emperor with 100,000-year soul ring. Zhu King couldn't help but shrink his pupils. How is this possible? Would you mind helping me? Because the author was busy with the settings during the period when school was about to start, he was a little careless about checking for typos, so if you find any mistakes while reading, can you point them out for me? Thank you. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.